Chapter 1, Overlord of the Sea, Resurrection New Book for Collection. The roar of the wind echoed above the sea and under the sky, like the whispers of ghosts in hell. The sky above was dark, and the dark sea below was rolling up waves, each wave higher than the other. Full left rudder, reefing the sails, what are you doing so procrastinatingly? You're going to die. Amid the roaring waves, a faint light loomed, rising and falling with the waves. It was a ship, with a flag hanging from the mast, a clown smiley face flag that seemed to have been crossed. Any sailor who has been on this sea long enough will be able to recognize this flag immediately. Because the owner of this flag is one of the famous strong men in this sea, the Dongquixote family led by Shi Shibukai Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo. He is also the largest intermediary businessman in the underground world of the sea, codenamed Joker. Sir, Master Diamanti, we can't go on any further. The climate here is too abnormal. I have been sailing on the sea for decades and have encountered no matter how dangerous the situation is. However, this time my intuition told me that I really couldn't go on. On Don Quixote's ship, an old navigator in his 60s shouted anxiously and panicked. It was his experience and command that had saved the ship from capsizing in strong waves several times before. However, as time went by, even with decades of experience, he became increasingly unsure. Calm down, Thomas. Don't be surprised no matter what weird things happen on the sea of the New World. It's just some abnormal weather. As one of the best navigators in our Dongquixote family, you can handle it. Diamanti, the top leader of the Dongquixote family, who was over 5 meters tall and wore a fur-brimmed flower hat with 2 red facial stripes on his face, spoke unhurriedly with a red cape flying behind him. But Lord Diamanti, this is not only the cause of the abnormally large waves, but also another terrifying existence that we don't know. Everyone on the ship has felt it. Lord Diamanti, you should have felt it too. That's right. The navigator said at a loss. What the old navigator said was not groundless. At this moment, the atmosphere on the ship was indeed not right. All the crew members, whether they were ordinary family members or the cube army trained by Diamanti himself, had expressions of extreme anxiety and fear on their faces. In the dark, there seems to be an aura like the power of heaven covering the sea, making people involuntarily feel great fear in their hearts. Diamanti's sharp gaze swept over everyone on the boat. Everyone caught by his gaze quickly lowered their heads, not daring to look at them. After a moment, Diamanti withdrew his gaze and spoke in an unmistakable stern tone, "Keep moving forward, there are important raw materials stored on this ship now, which are related to our deal with that big shot. They must be transported back to Dressrosa as soon as possible. That's what Dover told me." Lord Diamanti, but... The old navigator wanted to speak, but was forced back by Diamanti's stern look. "Do you have any more questions?" Diamanti asked with narrowed eyes. If it weren't for the fact that Thomas was still needed as a navigator, Diamanti would have already drawn his sword and chopped off the head of this verbose old man. No. No. Feeling the killing intent from Diamanti, Navigator Thomas quickly shook his head in fear and denied it. "Humph, I want to see what's weird here. If there's anything good, I can bring it back with me to give Dover a surprise." Diamanti whispered. The wind and waves on the sea are getting bigger and bigger, sometimes mixed with some sudden changes, such as the sudden formation of the sea Uzumaki, huge ice cubes falling from the sky, and dark storms that are visible to the naked eye like ghosts resurrecting. In such a harsh environment, even the Dongquixote family's heavy 3-masted sailboat was like a piece of duckweed, drifting uncertainly in the sea. Navigator Thomas almost never stopped talking. With many years of experience, he issued various instructions to everyone on the ship at all times. Chapter 2, Past Events. 40 years ago, the unlucky Diamanti outside the wave wall, the wind howls, and all kinds of abnormal and extreme weather form a doomsday-like picture, which is extremely terrifying. However, within the 4-sided wave wall, everything is calm. The sea is so calm that it makes people feel like they are in the calm belt, without any waves. The only unrest is probably the crack 100 meters away. A diamond-shaped 3-dimensional ice cube, shining with dreamlike brilliance, slowly emerged from the crack in the sea, and finally floated completely on the sea surface. Through the flashing gaps every few seconds, the people on the ship vaguely saw the existence in the ice cube. It was a young man with dark red hair. Just when people were desperately trying to see more clearly, the eyelashes of the red-haired young man in the ice cube trembled slightly. The next second, the shocking eyes penetrated the ice cube, carrying the ancient and vicissitudes of time, and penetrated the sea. At the same time, an aura like the might of God spread explosively at this moment, sweeping across the entire sea area. Thump thump thump. At this moment, hundreds of Dongquixote family crew members and elites on the ship were oppressed by this ruthless momentum. Their knees weakened involuntarily and they fell to the ground. Everyone had an expression of extreme fear on their faces. What's more, some of them collapsed directly to the ground, with feces and urine flowing out, and they were full of ugliness. Even a strong person like Diamanti, the top cotter, could not withstand it. He knelt down on one knee, and the western sword in his hand penetrated deeply into the deck. Even his pupils were trembling with fear. Fortunately, this terrifying aura of divine power came and went quickly, and disappeared without a trace in the next second. Only a soft click sound was heard. On the sea surface, countless fine cracks appeared on the surface of the ice cube that exuded dreamy brilliance. The next second, the ice cube shattered and turned into countless crystal shimmering particles that dissipated invisible. The red-haired young man who escaped from the ice took stiff steps. Ripples flashed in the air, and the figure of the red-haired young man on the sea had disappeared, and reappeared on the third deck of the Don Quixote transport ship. Chapter 3 The Terrifying Crushing Power. Is he a god? Who the hell are you, bastard? Why did you come out of the sea? On the first deck, Diamante leaned against the hilt of the western sword, got rid of the fear in her heart, stood up, and glared at Locke on the third deck. Previously, just a burst of momentum had forced him to kneel to the ground. For the proud Diamante, this was simply a great shame and humiliation, making him furious inside. Answer me! Diamante shouted. At this time, Diamante had no idea what kind of big shot he was facing, let alone the fact that he was already regarded as a punching bag by Locke. Asshole, you forced me to do this. Diamante smiled cruelly, reached into her arms with her right hand and took out 3 gaudy fireworks tubes. Papa papa. After 3 salutes, countless colorful confetti rushed up, flew into the air, enveloped Locke and then fell down. If you are offering a salute for my awakening, then I can forgive you for your previous crime of disrespect. Locke said jokingly. Hey, since you said so, let's make the fireworks more intense. Diamante smiled coldly. Death Star crumbs! Diamante shouted loudly, and the next second, a sudden change occurred. The originally light shreds of paper underwent fundamental material changes at this moment. As Diamante's ability was lifted, the scattered pieces of paper turned into sharp thorns one after another, spinning and shooting toward Locke below. It is so densely packed that there is no way to avoid it. If you are an ordinary person, you will definitely be riddled with holes under this fierce attack. This is what Diamante the Flying Man is capable of. The flying fruit of Paramecia gives him the power to transform all inorganic substances into a light and silky form, and then return to their original properties when necessary. The sky was filled with balls of thorns, but the expression on Locke's face did not change at all. Locke's figure swayed slightly, and then in Diamante's eyes, Locke's figure suddenly seemed to flicker and flicker. The airtight iron caltrops that almost shrouded the sky pierced through phantoms one after another, but could never touch Locke's true body. When the offensive stopped and all the thorns fell from the sky, Diamante was horrified to find that Locke had walked straight in front of him, only 10 steps away from him, unscathed. How is it possible? The sudden fright made Diamante unconsciously step back and distance herself, and her heart was filled with turmoil. How did you do it? Is it your ability? Diamante shouted in disbelief. Haha, you don't even know about observation haki, so you still have the nerve to hang out in the new world. Locke said sarcastically. Haki of haki? Impossible. How strong does it take to be able to avoid everything so accurately? Diamante shouted. You don't know, it's just because your level is too low. Besides, you mentioned my ability just now. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll make an exception and let you see it. Locke grinned and raised his right foot. Then it fell gently. Chapter 4, Plunder or Copy. Target dress. Rosa Goodong. Feeling the shattering aura that destroyed the world, Diamante's Adam's apple rolled and she swallowed hard. At this moment, from Locke, he felt the desperate strength gap between himself and Locke. He knew that as long as Locke was willing, as long as Locke had a thought, he would end up with the same fate as the Sea Kings in the sea, dead without a whole body. While Locke had no intention of letting Diamante and the others smash the ship under his feet. With a thought, the terrifying crushing power was restrained. The broken sky gradually healed, and the cracked sea reunited, but the Sea Kings could not be restored, because they had died long ago, and their blood stained the sea surface red. It wasn't until the crushing force retreated that the lingering tearing feeling in the hearts of the Don Quixote crew members on the ship finally disappeared, and they all let out a sigh of relief. However, the rest of the crew can breathe a sigh of relief, except Diamante. The threat brought by the ability to crush the fruit receded, but Diamante's inner uneasiness became more and more intense, and the feeling called death always lingered in his heart. Sure enough, in the next second, Diamante's ominous premonition came true. A few dozen steps away, Locke walked slowly with a gentle smile. You have already seen my abilities, so I will make an exception next time and let you see the others. Just be careful, it will hurt a little. Locke friendly reminded him, forming a fist with his right hand, and a fluffy black thing appeared out of thin air on his fist. It was armament haki, which was so rich that it was in an out-of-body state. Diamante, I at #Yuan. Feeling the monster-level armament haki on Locke's fist, Diamante wanted to curse in her heart. Who wants to see your abilities? If you had a choice, the devil would want to know your abilities. However, no matter how unwilling Diamanti was in her heart, what was supposed to come would still come, it was inevitable. You forced me to do this. Even if I die, I will peel off your skin. Diamanti suddenly smiled ferociously, and her anger briefly defeated her fear. I accept your hand, Ban Yu, funeral. Diamanti shouted, and the western sword in his right hand drew around half-arc in mid-air. Tisk the air tore under Diamanti's western sword. Apart from the flying fruit of Paramecia, Diamanti's attainments in swordsmanship are pretty good, reaching the level of an iron-slaying swordsman. His sword can definitely tear through steel and cut through the earth with ease. Unfortunately, this time he encountered Locke's fist, which had the ultimate armament haki on top of the advanced weapon color emission. Click the half-moon sword energy that Diamanti slashed with all his strength shattered into pieces. Boom, then the red steel cloak on his body exploded. Once again, the western sword in Diamanti's hand broke into several pieces and fell to the ground. Call all on new book sets sale. The new book sets sale, please support me with collections, flowers, and reviews. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 5, Sacrifice Lottery. The Empress is confused. Please comment on flowers for a whole day. The Dongquixote family's transport ship was in an extremely busy state, especially the ship's masters and cooks. Almost everyone was exhausted to the point of weakness. The former was afraid of Locke's condemnation and worked desperately to repair the ship. It only took 20 hours to repair the ship, which was several hours faster than the deadline given by Locke. The latter is due to the high-intensity cooking that takes place 24 hours a day. With the physical strength of these chefs, it is rare for them to be able to cook continuously for a whole day without stopping. The reason why the chefs worked so hard was of course Locke, who had been hungry for 40 years. Perhaps it was because he hadn't eaten in 40 years, or perhaps because of his physical condition, Locke's appetite was like a bottomless pit. After eating all kinds of delicacies non-stop all day long, Locke finally burped with satisfaction and felt that his whole body was full. Okay, pack up and you can go down. Locke waved his hand. Hearing this, the chefs on standby immediately felt as if they were being pardoned, thanked them profusely, and left in a hurry, kowtowing every step of the way. After meditating and adjusting his breath for a while, Locke decided to try the sacrifice extraction function of the infinite system. 40 years ago, Locke's time travel actually came with a system called infinity. It was just that due to various accidents, Locke was directly in a semi-sleep state. The original infinite system has become a limited system due to energy loss over the past 40 years, and many functions have been shut down independently. Now there are only two left. One is plundering or copying. The conditions that need to be met for plunder are to defeat the opponent, kill and cripple it, make the opponent unable to resist, and plunder the complete ability. Copying does not need to be like this. It only needs to touch the body of the designated person. On the contrary, the copied ability is not complete and will have some minor flaws. Previously, Locke relied on this power to rob Diamanti of her ability to fly fruits. The second remaining function of the system is sacrifice extraction. Sacrifice your own abilities and items to gain qualifications for the lottery. The scope of the lottery is the entire universe, and the proceeds can be powers or items from other worlds. In order to test this function, Locke prepared a total of 3 things: 1. The cooking skills of the plundered senior chef on the ship. 2. A small piece of gold. 3. The flying fruit ability plundered from Diamanti. Without saying much, Locke immediately put the senior chef's cooking skills on the luck draw table, and with a flash of light, the sacrifice began. After a moment, the light group representing advanced cooking ability disappeared, and a knife appeared in Locke's hand instead. Chapter 6. The clown avoids disaster and Violet is horrified at this moment. New World is the land of love, passion, and toys. Dressrosa. The highest point in the royal capital, the royal high ground where the royal palace is located. Foo, Straw Hat Boy, you did a good job. Haki actually killed the sand crocodile. He is really an interesting newcomer. But having said that, after escaping from the New World and returning to the paradise, this crocodile has really fallen. Foo. Shishibukai Don Quixote Doflamingo put down the newspaper and reward order in his hands and couldn't help laughing loudly. What the newspapers reported was a major kleptocratic incident that took place in Alabasta, Grand Line. Although the report stated that Marine Colonel Smoker finally solved the incident, defeating and arresting the culprit Shishibukai crocodile. However, with Doflamingo's intelligence network, he would not be fooled by Marine's little trick, and he had special channels to learn the truth of the matter. Doflamingo picked up the wine glass and was about to taste it, when suddenly he shuddered for no reason and the wine in the glass spilled. "Young master, what's wrong with you?" the maid baby 5 asked quickly with concern. "No, it's nothing, Torble, when will Diamanti come back?" Doflamingo asked. "If there's no delay on the way, I'll probably be back tomorrow," Toripole said. "Tomorrow, there's nothing we can do about it. Marine has notified me to attend this Shishibukai meeting to discuss Crocodile's successor. I have to go and have a look, and also see what kind of newcomer defeated Sand Crocodile. Doflamingo said. Are we leaving now? Toripole asked. Doflamingo nodded silently. Although he didn't know why, his instinct told him to go for a walk as soon as possible. Torble, I will leave the sad affairs to you for the time being. I will leave first. Doflamingo said. After saying that, without waiting for Torrible and others to say anything, Doflamingo jumped up suddenly, used the string fruit ability to build a line channel between the clouds, stepped on it and walked quickly through the air, and in the blink of an eye it disappears into the sky. 2 days later in the evening, the sea water reflected by the fiery red sunset turned red. A Don Quixote transport ship with its hull covered with various patches sailed out of the turbulent magnetic field with changeable weather and arrived at a calm sea. This is a symbol that it has entered a certain area of stable magnetic field. Soon, a small island surrounded by huge mushroom-shaped rocks came into Locke's sight. That is the New World's famous land of love, passion, and toys, Dressrosa. During the day, it is peaceful and stable, and the streets are filled with laughter and laughter. However, here at night, it is completely the opposite. In the 10 years since the Doflamingo regime came to power, under the violent rule of the Don Quixote family, Dressrosa has been enveloped in a subtle atmosphere of peace. However, behind this peace, there is a deep and bloody darkness. After all, who would have thought that the toys that are abundant in this country and can talk like humans were actually transformed into human beings one after another? Under the childlike fruit power of sugar, all living beings are equal. Chapter 7 Game Rules. Please comment on Flowers. Dressrosa Underground Trading Port. The dilapidated transport ship sailed into the largest secret intermediary port in the underground world. On the shore, everyone headed by Torrible, the top cotter of the Plum Blossom Army, had been waiting for a long time. When they saw the dilapidated sad transport ship, Torble, Jorah and others all felt their hearts sink, and they had a bad feeling in their hearts. When everyone on the ship disembarked one after another, but Diamanti was the only one missing, the ominous premonition in the hearts of Torble and others suddenly became extremely strong. Hey, what's going on with your ship? What happened? Where's Lady Diamanti? Jorah, the Shamet ant in red and green, asked anxiously. Everyone lowered their heads without saying a word. Diamanti, if you're here, say something back. Torble shouted. Lord Torrible, Lord Diamanti is not here. Navigator Thomas came out with a sad expression. What did you say? Diamanti is not here, so where is he? Torble's eyes widened and he flicked his right hand. A ball of snot-like mucus shot out from his hand, sticking Thomas to the ground. Lord Torble, our ship encountered an unprecedented storm on the way back. The hull suffered a near-destructive blow and was forced to rest on a nearby island. But while we were resting, we were attacked by a red-haired man. Lady Diamanti. In order to complete the task assigned by the young master, Lady Diamanti entangled him alone and asked us to take Sad first. Come back, Thomas said. This tragic story is naturally false, but no matter who Torble asks, even the Diamond Army personal guards trained by Diamanti, they will only get the same story. It's all about staying alive. If we were honest, let Toripole and other cotters learn that they had surrendered to the enemy, and they would have watched helplessly as Diamanti was thrown into the sea, fed to the Sea Kings, and brought the enemy to Dressrosa. Then the ending waiting for them will definitely be much more terrifying than death. They know only too well how cruel the Don Quixote family is in treating traitors. Even though they had made up a beautiful story, Toripole and other cotters were still furious when they learned about Diamanti's disappearance. Damn it, you abandoned the captain on the ship and ran back, you all deserve to die. The explosive head Gladius said. No, Lord Diamanti is not the kind of person who would die in vain for some goods. There must be other reasons for this. Mahabasi, the user with the ability to press tons of fruits, said. Go find it and order it down. Let all the Don Quixote troops that can be mobilized be dispatched. Diamanti must be found. Torrible ordered. Lord Torble, do you need to report this matter to the young master? Jorah asked. No, don't let Dove know about it for now. We'll wait until Diamanti is found. Also contact Violet. Her ability to stare at the fruit can come in handy, Torble said. Yes, Jorah nodded in agreement. At the same time, on the top floor of the Acacia Bell Tower, Locke put one hand around Violet's slender waist and pulled her back from the edge of losing her footing. Thump thump. Chapter 8 No one can bully you. Please comment on Flowers. Dang. The bell rings at 18 o'clock, seeming to celebrate that a girl in this world has become a woman. From night to dawn, and from dawn to night, a cycle of 24 hours a day. I'm going to find something to eat. Wait here for me to come back. Locke smiled and turned to leave. Day and night, Locke's mental state was still at its peak. Violet didn't move. The grievances in her heart broke out, and tears fell unconsciously from the corners of Violet's eyes. The experience of this day and night was the darkest moment in Violet's life. It was even more impressive than when Doflamingo's arrival destroyed her family 10 years ago. Not long after, Locke returned to the clock tower wearing brand new clothes. Locke carefully helped Violet up, like a good husband taking care of his wife. Then Locke patiently helped Violet put on the brand new dance dress he bought. Sit up and lean on me to eat something. Locke directed, personally feeding Violet nourishing chicken soup supplements. Throughout the whole process, Violet was just at the mercy of Locke. Anyway, it was already like this, and she didn't care anymore. It's just that Violet can't equate the previous wild invader who seemed to tear her to pieces with the gentle good husband now. Which side is the real him? Violet discovered that even though her staring fruit had the ability to see through people's hearts, it had no effect at all in front of Locke. This man with a mysterious origin, this man who made her suffer so much, this man who also made her experience the joy of being a woman for the first time. Everything about him is a mystery, and even his name is unknown. You, what's your name? Violet asked hoarsely after regaining some strength. Locke, or Rocks? Locke said. Rocks, Rocks. Violet murmured in a low voice, searching for the memory of these two names in her mind, but nothing could be found. Chapter 9 Exposure. Please comment on Flower's dress. Rosa, King's Heights. In the palace hall, the two top leaders of the Don Quixote family, Toripol and Pica, one on the left and one on the right, are like two door gods, both with evil faces. After searching for so long, there is still no news about Diamante. Pica, the top cotter wearing a gold mask and golden chainmail, with muscles like a horned dragon, said sharply. The high-pitched, eunuch-like voice formed a sharp contrast to his rugged appearance. Anyone who hears this sound for the first time will definitely be amused. But none of the Don Quixote family soldiers in the main hall dared to laugh at Pica's voice. Pica was originally in a rage, and if he was angered again, he would only end up with an ugly death. Lord Toribel, the voice of Jorah, the old woman who killed Matt, came from outside the hall. What's wrong? Jorah, is there any news about Diamante? Toribel asked. No, it's Violet, Violet is back. Jorah said. That woman disappeared for a day when we needed her, and there was no news. Damn it! Bring her here to me. Toribel said angrily. Not long after, Violet was brought to Toribel and others by a group of family soldiers. Violet Pica's high-pitched voice rose an octave and became more harsh. Nay, Violet, let me ask you, where were you yesterday? Why didn't you answer our communication? Toribel asked. I lost my phone bug. Violet replied expressionlessly. Lost the phone bug? Is this your reason? It seems that Dover and us have been too polite to you over the years. Pica threatened in a sharp voice. Bula bula. Just then, one of the phone bugs with an exploding head rang. Gladius, have you discovered Diamante's whereabouts? Toribel asked quickly. Boom! On the other end of the phone, there was the roar of an explosion, followed by the painful screams of a group of people. After a while, he regained his composure. Gladius, Gladius, Lord Pica, Toribel, we have all been deceived. On the opposite side, Gladius yelled angrily. Being cheated? What happened? Pica asked. Chapter 10 Crush. Toribel and Pica. The Joker calls Violet, leave the rest to me. Locke patted Violet on the shoulder and said with a smile. Violet snorted obediently. She suddenly found that she was full of confidence in this domineering man who wanted her body. Even though he knew that he was facing the two most powerful top officials of the Don Quixote family, he didn't have the slightest worry in his heart. Because she believed Locke would not lose. Stinky old woman, you're an eyesore, get out of here. Locke glanced at the frightened Jorah and kicked her out. Boom! A trace of a human figure appeared on the wall of the palace, and Jorah, the old woman, flew out to an unknown distance. You bastard, are you? First you killed Diamante, and now you dare to persecute our family in front of us. It's unforgivable. Pica screamed angrily. Listening to Pica's voice that was completely inconsistent with his body, Locke couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ignoring the furious Pica and Toribel, Locke turned to look at Violet behind him. Violet, I really want to know how you managed to hold back your laughter before. There aren't many such weird and funny voices and body shapes in this world, Locke said. Hearing this, Violet, who was used to holding back her laughter, couldn't help laughing, and immediately gave Locke a charming eye roll. Bastard, 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 you really bullied me too much, I'm going to kill you in the most cruel way. Pica screamed angrily. Slimy meteor. Toribel, who was 2 feet long with snot dripping from his nose, took action directly. Paramecia's sticky fruit ability was activated, and a long string of disgusting slime was thrown out from his right hand. He violently tore off a pillar of the palace and smashed it towards Locke and Violet. You two bastards, you all must die! Toribel shouted. Noisy, the rare atmosphere has been ruined by a disgusting guy like you. Locke's eyes flashed with coldness, and he casually raised his right hand to meet the stone pillar that fell with great force. Crush! The moment Locke's palm came into contact with the stone pillar, the terrifying crushing force swept out like a storm. It only took a moment, and Toribel didn't even have time to react. The stone pillar he controlled shattered into powder, and the slime chains he created with his ability exploded. Then all the slime that he wrapped around his body, disguising himself as a broad and strong man, fell off, revealing his skinny true body underneath. What kind of ability is this? Toribel looked horrified. The next second, a spiderweb-like white light appeared on his skinny body. Chi, the blood surged up very high, and Toribel's consciousness gradually became blurred. Chapter 11 Angry Doflamingo. Please comment on Flowers Naval Headquarters, Marine Ford. The Shishibukai meeting convened by the government ended not long ago. The world's greatest swordsman, Dracula Mihawk, Cyborg Tyrant Bear, Saizui Shishibukai Gecko Moria, and Don Quixote Doflamingo, 4 participants walked out of the conference room one after another. In previous meetings, Doflamingo was able to argue with the top brass of the marine government in a relaxed manner. However, as soon as he left the conference room, for no apparent reason, Doflamingo's right eyelid suddenly twitched wildly under his pink sunglasses. An indescribable uneasiness enveloped his heart, something he had never felt before. Did something happen to Diamante? Doflamingo whispered to himself. Doflamingo took out the phone bug from his pocket. The growing uneasiness in his heart drove Doflamingo to dial the phone bug immediately regardless of the risk of being monitored by Marine. After a long wait, the phone was connected, but there was no familiar greeting from family members. Toribel, what happened to you over there? Doflamingo asked with a frown. No one answered. Answer me, Toribel, Pika, Jorah, Mahabezi. Don Quixote. Doflamingo, right? It's rare for a distinguished guest to come here, but you, the king, are not here, which makes me a little disappointed. Finally, a voice came from the other end of the phone. However, the voice was not anyone familiar to Doflamingo. Who are you? Where are Toribel and the others? Doflamingo asked. All of them, their hearts are as high as the sky, but unfortunately their lives are thinner than paper. They can't help but beat each other. Locke said casually. What did you say? After hearing this, Doflamingo knew that the ominous premonition in his heart had come true. During the few days he left, something huge happened to Dressrosa. His men and his family were afraid of something happening, which made Doflamingo extremely angry. Asshole, what have you done to my family? Doflamingo yelled angrily, causing the marine elites in the harbor to be frightened and prepare for battle. Dover, it's Dover's voice. Dover, don't come back, absolutely don't come back. Ahem, you can't defeat this monster now. Take Gladius and the others back to North Blue. We'll take our revenge later. Pika, who had fainted, suddenly came back to his senses when he heard Doflamingo's voice, and shouted with a unique voice. Pika, hello, Pika, is it you? What's wrong with you? Dover, be careful, he is the devil, the red-haired devil, he is back from hell. Following Pika, the dying Toribel also came back to his senses, desperately trying to convey some messages to Doflamingo. Chapter 12, Lifting the Toy Curse, Chaos. Please comment on Flowers Dressrosa, Ruins of the Royal Palace. Locke threw away Doflamingo's phone bug, picked up the bodies of Pika and Toribel, and began to collect the loot. Ding, the ability to plunder the sticky fruit of Paramecia was successful. Ding, the ability to plunder the Paramecia stone fruit was successful. Locke discarded the 2 useless corpses. Locke naturally despises the sticky fruit that is as disgusting as snot, and will not use it even once, and must sacrifice it as soon as possible. As for the ability of Pika's stone fruit to blend into the rocky earth and turn it into one's own use, it can indeed be said to be quite good. Just imagine what a terrifying scene it would be if you had enough physical strength to fuse the rocks of an entire island into a giant. Just as Locke was simulating the destructive power of the stone fruit in his mind, the sound of a little girl crying came from the ruins not far away. Looking around, there was a cute little girl wearing a red bear hoodie squatting on the ruins. Tears as big as peas kept falling from her big eyes, like a lost child, and her appearance was really distressing. What a cute little girl! Locke said, walking towards her. On the other side, Violet, who was still immersed in the joy of national liberation, also heard the cry of the little Lolita and listened to it. When she saw Locke reaching out to the little Lolita, wanting to pick her up, the joy on Violet's face suddenly changed, and she turned to one of extreme panic. Others don't know, so how can Violet, who has endured the humiliation of the Don Quixote family for 8 years, not know? That pitiful, harmless-looking little Loli is the scariest character in the Don Quixote family. Because of her fruit ability, the childlike fruit, it can turn people into toys. This is the root of all evil that has caused this country's tragedy. Lord Locke, be careful. The situation was urgent, and Violet only had time to say this. Haha, it's already too late. The corners of the little Loli Sugar's mouth, wearing a red bear hoodie, were slightly curved. She changed her previous pitiful look and showed an expression of success. I'm afraid it's not too late. Locke also grinned. Violet's worries were unnecessary. As a time traveler, how could he not know the terrifying ability of Sugar? Boom! The turbulent conqueror's haki spread out and hit Sugar's body head-on. In just a moment, Sugar's consciousness was completely lost under the impact of Conqueror's haki. The moment Sugar lost consciousness, the curse imposed by the childlike fruit on all the toys in Dressrosa was also released. The riverbank on the outskirts of the royal capital. A one-horned toy soldier was sternly urging a little girl about 14 years old to practice kendo. Suddenly, the one-legged toy soldier shook violently, his body grew in size at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally returned to a middle-aged man with a resolute face. I recovered. The one-legged soldier Cyrus looked at his hands in disbelief. Chapter 13, Looting Don Quixote's treasure house and a great harvest. After leaving the country's aftermath to Violet, Locke himself went straight to the depths of the palace, led by the Don Quixote family soldiers. A huge stainless steel door stands in front. This is where Don Quixote's treasure house is located, which contains countless rare treasures and all the secrets that the Don Quixote family has acquired since its establishment. It is the important place of the family. Big, big, big. Sir, this is all I really know. Only the young master and the family leaders know how to enter the treasure house. The Don Quixote soldier who led the way said with a cry. Go away. Locke waved his hand casually. The soldier immediately felt as if he had been granted amnesty, and left with all his hands and feet as quickly as possible. Looking at the door that stood in front of him, Locke didn't show any distress at all. He raised his right hand and pressed it lightly on the door. Crush! There is no need for a password or a key. Everything that stands in front of Locke, whether it is people or things, only needs a simple smash. Unparalleled crushing force exploded, and white bright lines were drawn on the iron door. The next second, with a rumble, the several-meter-thick treasure house door shattered, turning into countless square iron bodies and falling to the ground. At the same time, a dazzling golden light came from the treasure house, making the person almost unable to open his eyes. Locke, who had been imprisoned for 40 years and thought he cared about nothing but freedom, couldn't help but be shocked after seeing such a massive gold treasure. After decades of accumulation, the wealth of the Don Quixote family cannot be simply described as being as wealthy as the country. Especially in the past 10 years, Doflamingo has used Dressrosa as its base and relied on the convenience of Shishabukai's identity to push his career to the top and become the largest dark middleman in the entire underground world, making a lot of money. Now, unfortunately, these fortunes will change hands with the arrival of Locke. The Don Quixote family's decades of hard work were ultimately intercepted by Locke and turned into a wedding dress. How miserable this is! 8 years ago, when Doflamingo seized Dressrosa by force and used it as his base camp, he never imagined that it would end up like this. After the brief shock, the expression on Locke's face returned to calm. Although the gold treasure he saw in front of him was astonishing, Locke knew that in this sea, as long as he had the strength, such things were not always available. What's more, this is just a Don Quixote treasure house. In the future, there will be Big Mom's treasure house, Kaido treasure house and even the world government Celestial Dragon's treasure house that has ruled the world for 800 years. Locke walked slowly, looking at a small golden mountain on the side of the road, and suddenly his mind moved. A few days ago, he used a small piece of gold as a sacrifice to draw the Empress' original fat shot, which is still lying in Locke's pocket. What if the dose is increased? If you sacrifice a mountain of gold, what good things will come out? Don't tell me it's just a bunch of Empress original flavor. Chapter 14 5-star Summoning the Flame Demon Itsuka Kotori. After crossing the mountains of gold treasures, Locke walked toward the sword collection area of the treasure house. Famous swords have spirits. As Locke approaches, the swordsmen on the rack make strange noises one after another, conveying the intention of surrender and following to the powerful swordsman, hoping to be selected by Locke. Swords can nourish people, and the same people can nourish swords. Even an ordinary sword, through the sword energy of the swordsman and the nourishment of haki over the years, will transform into a dragon and become a peerless magic weapon. The supreme sword wielded by Dracul Mihawk, the greatest swordsman in the world today, Knight is an example. Locke walked slowly along the wall of swords and shook his head in disappointment. There are 2 sharp swords, but the supreme sharp sword has never been seen. This is not surprising. After all, there are only 12 supreme sharp swords in the world, and many of them have long since disappeared without a trace. They can be encountered but cannot be found. Even if Doflamingo had collected it, he would have used it himself or sold it at a high price, so there is no way it could be left here to gather dust. Although he failed to encounter the supreme sharp sword, as a swordsman, Luok Kong has exquisite swordsmanship, but it is natural that he does not have a weapon at his disposal. Locke stretched out his right hand and waved gently. The next moment, a simple long knife flew out on its own and landed in Locke's hand. Pulling the sword out of its sheath, a thunder suddenly exploded in the treasure house. What a spring thunder! Locke secretly praised. The famous sword with blue thunder patterns on the blade in his hand at this time is called Chun Lei. It is one of the only two large sharp knives with 24 skills here. Although the famous sword Chun Lei ranks among the great swordsmen, it is not well known outside the world. Therefore, it is rated as the lowest among the great swords by the world. This is why it was hidden away by the Dongquixote family. However, after actually taking control, Locke could feel that Chun Lei's potential was far more than that. This is a famous knife that is underestimated by everyone. Let you follow me for the time being, Locke said, sheathing the sword. Then, without stopping, he went straight to the glass cabinet where devil fruit was stored. Zoan cat fruit tiger form, Zoan bug fruit mantis form, Paramecia expanded fruit, Zoan snake fruit rattlesnake form. Locke's eyes scanned the labels corresponding to each fruit to learn the abilities they each contained. Among the 7 devil fruits, 6 are actually Zoan, and 1 Paramecia, which looks very swollen at first glance, has no boost at all to the current Locke and can only be used as a sacrifice for the lottery. 7 devil fruits, plus the looted sticky fruits, give a total of 8 drawing opportunities. Without further ado, Locke immediately started extracting. After all, Locke is more curious about what abilities they can exchange for other worlds than keeping these useless abilities. Sacrifice Zoan cat fruit tiger form, obtain fate, Overlord bar, gain fate and double your combat power. Locke, it's interesting, let's continue. Sacrifice the sticky fruit of Paramecia and the expanding fruit of Paramecia at the same time, and obtain a piece of dragon scale armor, invulnerable to water and fire. Chapter 15 The lovely coterie King Riku's shock resurrected in the flames, the swaying feathers and burning sleeves form a fantasy kimono form. The body is surrounded by flames, and there are ghost-like inorganic horns on its head, exuding a majestic and inviolable aura. It overlapped. The beautiful girl in front of him completely overlapped with the image in Locke's memory. The only difference is that here, he is the brother of this beautiful elf girl. Brother, why are you so stunned? Are you really not giving your lovely sister a welcome hug? Wohi Kotori tilted her little head and stuck out her tongue playfully. Cured. She is indeed a capable sister. This healing and cute smile is really addictive. Welcome, Kotori, my sister. Locke stepped forward with a smile on his face, opened his arms, and gave Itsuka Kotori a big hug. When the scorching flames approached, even Locke's body was burned red, and the clothes on his body were already charred black. I'm sorry, brother, I didn't mean to do it. I'll remove the spiritual outfit right away. Itsuka Kotori reacted immediately, and was frightened into a panic. She quickly removed Kamui's 5th spiritual outfit. However, Wohi Kotori seemed to have forgotten one thing in his desperation. The burning sensation in his arms disappeared, replaced by a piece of ice that was as cool as nephrite and had a wonderful touch. Locke lowered his head slightly and looked at Kinlai, who was shrinking in his arms, and was stunned for a moment. At this moment, Itsuka Kotori finally realized an important thing that she had overlooked. After removing the spiritual costume, there seemed to be no cover on her body. Realizing this, Wohi Kotori suddenly let out a cute cry, her face turned red instantly, and she arched further into Locke's arms, trying to cover her vitals with Locke's body. Locke touched his nose awkwardly. Although the touch in his arms was good, it would not be a problem if it continued like this. Looking around, there was no women's clothing suitable for Kotori in Don Quixote's treasure trove. Kotori, you should enter the spiritual equipment state temporarily. Locke said. But in that case, brother, you will be burned again. Itsuka Kotori said worriedly. It's okay, let's just separate first. Locke said. Wohi Kotori. It's so embarrassing that I didn't even think of such a simple solution, Itsuka Kotori thought to herself. Actually, it won't matter even if it comes into contact. I forgot about it before. There is one more thing that is useless. Locke said, with a thought. A silver knee-length windbreaker and the dragon scale armor obtained from the lottery appeared on Locke out of thin air. At the same time, Wohi Kotori's spiritual costume reappeared. Sure enough, Locke's silver windbreaker was invulnerable to water and fire. Even the flames of the spiritual equipment in Wohi-chin were completely isolated. The flames really can't burn it. It's amazing. Itsuka Kotori said in surprise. If you want it, I'll give it to you later. Locke said casually, without hesitation. No, 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 Itsuka Kotori shook her head quickly. Speaking of which, brother, does all the gold here belong to you? It's so spectacular. I've never seen so much gold. How many lollipops can I buy with this? Kotori Okawa exclaimed, his eyes shining. Not only mine, everything here is also yours from now on. Locke said. Really, this is really great. Itsuki Kotori jumped up and down holding Locke's right hand in surprise. Chapter 16 The news spread across the sea and the world was shocked. Please comment on the flowers. The overlord of the sea 40 years ago, his name was Rox. When King Riku finished speaking, Violet and the other 3 people couldn't help but open their mouths wide, showing expressions of extreme horror. Lord King Riku, are you kidding? Cyrus' face was filled with disbelief. Originally, I just thought it was a simple duplicate of his name, but when I actually saw him. King Riku paused, and then said, like, it's really exactly the same as the photo on the wanted poster. Lord King Riku, is it possible that he is a descendant of that Overlord? After all, if calculated according to time, the Sea Overlord Rocks is at least 90 years old. How could he still be so young? King's army commander Taigolepant rode. King Riku shook his head, it's hard to say. Violet, what's wrong with you? King Riku asked. No, nothing. Violet shook her head. Cyrus and Tegurpant did not believe what King Riku said at all. But she believed it. Because she remembered the story that Locke had told her on that crazy night 2 days ago, there was a man who had been imprisoned for 40 years. In short, you all have forgotten what I said before and just think that I am talking nonsense. King Riku waved his hand. About that adult, nothing can be revealed to anyone before getting his permission. Yes, Lord Riku King I know. Violet and the three of them nodded firmly. On the other side, Locke took the two little girls Kotori Itsuka and Rebecca down to the commercial street of the royal capital. Due to the lifting of the toy curse, the entire Dressrosa is still in a state of extreme chaos. Scenes of the returning first wife beating the mistress are constantly being staged on the street, with all kinds of excitement happening. In such a chaotic situation, it is impossible to go shopping safely, and just looking at it makes you upset. In response, Locke directly launched his ultimate move. A conqueror's haki passed by and all the noise stopped abruptly. Brother, this is... The sudden silence made both Kotori and Rebecca widen their beautiful eyes in shock. It's nothing, just let them calm down for a while. They will wake up tomorrow. Locke said. Well, brother is so awesome. Kintori's big, bright eyes were suddenly filled with little stars of admiration. Rebecca let out a sigh of relief and felt relieved. After wandering around, Jean took off her spiritual clothes and put on a set of cute Lolita skirts. She also picked out a lot of other large and small things. Of course, these things are given to gold. What Locke lacks most now is money, so how could he take advantage of these ordinary people? After Locke and the others returned to the palace, Violet and the others left to prepare a nationwide speech to calm people's hearts. These things have nothing to do with Locke. It won't be long before what happened in Dressrosa will be spread across the sea through newspapers, and by then the place will inevitably attract some rats. Locke will leave for his next destination, Sky Island, soon, but Kotori's appearance just fills Locke's vacancy. But before that, Locke still needs to conduct a series of private tutoring sessions for Kintori. Chapter 17 Crane Vice Admiral's Miscalculation and Shock. Dressrosa, a field of yellow and orange sunflowers. Woohee Kinlai is like an elf in a flower, jumping around. Under the big tree in the flower field, Locke set up a blackboard to teach Kotori some basic knowledge about the pirate world. Listen up, Kotori, with your fire elf power, you can be considered the world's top-level combat power. Ordinary enemies will not pose a threat to you, but there are exceptions. If you encounter these two people, it is best not to conflict with them. Leave as soon as you can, even if you abandon the country. Your own safety is the first priority. Locke pointed at the four emperors on the bounty order, Big Mom Charlotte Linlin and Kaido of the Beasts, and spoke earnestly. Yeah, Itsuka Kotori nodded obediently. One more thing, the little girl over there can't take off the handcuffs until the education is completed. Locke glanced at Sugar squatting in the shadow corner of the big tree. Sutang was immediately frightened when Locke looked at him. He quickly lowered his head and kept drawing circles on the ground with his fingers. Bulu Violet, what's wrong? Locke asked. Lord Locke, the marine fleet was spotted 10 kilometers southeast. At the front was a large ship with the word Crane written on it. Violet reported. Naval Headquarters Crane Vice Admiral, she is the one who came as expected. Locke grinned. It would be too boring to show off our cards now, so I'll just let you guess a little longer. Locke whispered to himself. Kotori, come here. Locke said. Oh, there was a sunflower on the left and right of Woohee Chin and a sunflower on the right, and they responded obediently. Locke raised his hand and hit Woohee Kinlai lightly on the forehead. Stop being playful, I don't know how much you have listened to my words in the past 2 days. Locke shook his head. Brother, I am not playful, and I remember everything my brother said, because I am a genius. Itsuka Kotori stood up at the airport proudly. Okay, just remember it, then I can leave with peace of mind. Locke said, with a wave of his right hand, the Quinjet originally stored in the system space appeared out of thin air among the flower fields. Ah, brother, you really have to leave. Upon hearing the news that Locke was leaving, Itsuka Kotori suddenly showed a look of reluctance, but the disappointment on her pretty face immediately turned into determination. Brother, you can go and play with peace of mind. I will look after this country for my brother. Woohee Kotori promised firmly. What a reliable and capable sister. Locke smiled and waved goodbye before boarding the Quinjet. Half a minute later, an astonishing wave of air blew out in the flower field. The sun-filled sky is full of petals falling. Under Locke's control, the Quinjet hovered over the flower field for several weeks, finally rose into the sky, and disappeared from the sky in an instant. An hour later, the naval headquarters fleet led by Marine Vice Admiral arrived at Dressrosa with a large amount of condolences. King Riku and Violet, who had already learned the news, hosted Vice Admiral Crane and Acacia. Your Majesty King Riku, Princess Violet, what is the situation in the country now? If you need our Marine's help, please feel free to ask. Crane Vice Admiral said sincerely. Now that Vice Admiral Crane is here, we can finally feel at ease. All the remnants of the Don Quixote family will be handed over to Vice Admiral. King Riku responded. Chapter 18 Arriving at Sky Island and ringing the golden bell. It's quiet at night. In the Marshal's office at Naval Headquarters, the sounds of Kazi and Click can be heard endlessly. The two Marine elders, a Marine Marshal and a Marine hero, were like two angry children holding rice cake slices and competing with senbei. Bulu bulu on the table, an old telephone was still ringing. After a while, the phone was answered. Zaya-he, I heard that you have arrived at Dressrosa. Garp asked. Alas, Crane Vice Admiral responded a little tiredly. When will you come back? Garp asked. We don't know yet. Whether it's Dressrosa or Alabasta, we owe them a lot. There are still many people who are eyeing the Don Quixote family's legacy. I will stay there for a while longer. Crane Vice Admiral said. Zaya-he, what's wrong with you? Your voice seems a little tired. Sengoku asked. No, it's nothing. Vice Admiral Tsuru denied. Speaking of which, Sengoku, I have already met the person who defeated the Don Quixote family today. Hearing this, both Garp and Sengoku looked shocked and sat upright. Who is it? Sengoku and Garp asked nervously, seriously waiting for the answer from the other party. The Balrog who controls the flames, his name is Ifrit. Crane Vice Admiral said. Call not hearing the name that made them worry or even fear from Vice Admiral Crane, both Garp and Sengoku sighed. Ha 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 ha, let me just say, how can someone who has been dead for 40 years come back to life? You are overthinking it, Sengoku, Zaya-he. Garp laughed. Inma, Ifrit, who is that? When did there appear to be such a number one person in the sea again? Garp, have you heard of it? Sengoku asked with a frown. Who knows? I only know two people in this sea who are related to playing with fire. One is Sakazuki, and the other is the Fire Fist boy on Whitebeard's bastard ship. It can't be him. Garp picked his nostrils. Casually. The sea is so vast, it's not surprising that new monsters will pop up from time to time. Listening to Garp's explanation, Sengoku nodded in agreement, picked up the teacup on the table, and took a sip. Before Sengoku could swallow his tea, Crane Vice Admiral continued, the true form of Inma Ifrit is a 14-year-old red-haired girl. Puff the tea in Sengoku's mouth immediately sprayed Garp's face. Yes, you are also very shocked, right? Crane Vice Admiral seemed to anticipate the situation on the other side, paused, and suddenly changed the subject. But I still feel something is wrong. This matter is definitely not that simple. I will continue to investigate on the spot in Dressrosa. You should also pay attention to the movements in other places, especially those two monsters. Communication hung up. Garp and Sengoku looked at each other, and both saw solemnity in each other's eyes. Chapter 19 The Golden Bell Annals Shock. Yeah, ha 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 ha, there are 81 people participating in the survival game. There are still 25 people. 3 hours later, there will be only the last 5 people left. This is a prophecy made by me, a god, and it will never go wrong. In the lush primitive jungle, on a huge branch, a young man wearing a white turban and bloomers, with a thunder drum behind him, laughed proudly. He is Enel, the self-proclaimed god of thunder due to his powerful Logia thunder fruit powers, and the organizer and participant of the survival game on this island today. Then, in order to reduce the number of people as quickly as possible, I have to join the battle. Samdia's warrior Kamachili, you are really unlucky to meet me. Enel closed his eyes, and the dual combination of heart network and radio waves allowed him to observe every corner of Sky Island without using his eyes. At this time, he was looking at the game participant closest to him, the brave warrior from Sandia. However, just when Enel was about to use the elements of thunder fruit to kill him, a dangerous signal sounded in Enel's heart without warning. For a moment, Enel suddenly felt a thrilling feeling of being watched by a god. Yes, only God. The only explanation for being able to override his divine consciousness, the radio waves of the heart network and monitor all living beings is other gods. Enel sat cross-legged in the air, and the radar formed by the combination of radio waves and heart network spread out to the maximum extent, trying to find the other guy who was spying in secret. The result was nothing unusual. Is it my imagination? Enel frowned and said to himself. Ignore it for now, it's the game now. Before Enel finished speaking, the next moment, the melodious sound of bells came from higher in the sky. Dang 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 dang. This melodious bell is like a clear stream flowing through the hearts of all listeners. The melodious sound of the bell is like the most beautiful music in the world, which is enough to cleanse the soul and calm the anger in people's hearts. What happened? Is this sound the island singing? This is the song of the legendary island of gods. I didn't expect it to appear again nearly 400 years later. Lord God, thank you very much. When the residents of Angel Island heard the sound of the bell, they all couldn't help but clasp their hands, pray devoutly, and admire the wonderful bell. In Cloud Shinobi village where the Sandians are located, all the Sandians who did not participate in the war walked out of their tents and listened to the bells ringing in the distance. The older generation could not help but shed tears of excitement. The glory of our ancestors, the pride of our Sandia, the big bell tower is still somewhere on this sky island. I have always believed it. The chief burst into tears with excitement. Light Sandia's fire! An old man shouted excitedly. Chapter 20 Shocked Robin. Please comment on flowers. The ancient ruins of Apayadu Island, the island of gods. Nico Robin, an archaeologist wearing a sun hat and a navel-bearing shirt, gently stroked the patterns on the ruins with his delicate hands and fell into a state of thought. According to various existing clues, there is no doubt that this island is the disappeared Gaia Island. 400 years ago, it was hit head-on by rising sea currents and washed into the sky. Although I don't know what happened, the bell of the Golden Bell has already sounded, so Sandora, the Golden Land, must exist somewhere on this island, maybe right under my feet. Robin whispered to himself. Oh, miss, why are you here alone? I don't know, it's very dangerous here. At this moment, an inappropriate voice came from not far away. Following the sound, a huge little giant appeared in Robin's sight. He is Oyama, the captain of the magic army led by Enel. Bang bang bang, the magic weapon Changshan walked along the road, punching and kicking at will, destroying the ancient ruins that Robin valued to a mess, thereby showing his power. Stop, don't destroy these treasures any further. Robin shouted, looking sulky. Treasure? What nonsense are you talking about? I didn't see any treasure. This is just a pile of rotten stones. The real treasure has long been owned by Lord Enel. The divine soldier Changshan laughed sarcastically, and in front of Robin, he intensified his destruction and was extremely provocative. Seeing the ancient ruins that he regarded as treasures being vandalized, Robin felt furious in his heart, and his pretty face was as cold as ice, exuding a deep chill. Aren't you afraid of being punished by God for destroying the treasures left by your predecessors without permission? Robin said coldly. God's punishment? Ha 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 ha, I am God's most loyal servant. Rounding up, I am almost equal to God. Who can give me God's punishment? Shenbing Changshan laughed proudly. Forget it, I'm a little tired of just smashing these rocks. Now it's time to send you on your way. Shenbing Dashan smiled coldly. Whoosh, driven by Feng Bei behind him, the speed of Shenbing Dashan suddenly increased dramatically. However, before he could approach Robin and unleash the power of Slash Shell on Robin, a violent wind pressure came without warning. There was just a snap, and Dashan, a warrior weighing several hundred kilograms, was instantly pressed down on a piece of bluestone in the ruins, like fish on a chopping board, unable to move. And directly above his body, a huge steel spaceship was slowly landing. There was a pop sound. Without any surprise, the body of Shenbing Changshan was crushed into a puddle of meat, with blood flowing out. Robin, who was not far away, was stunned by this sudden change. Chapter 21, Fooling Robin. Please comment on the flowers. At this moment, the legendary golden city of Shantora is finally revealed in its entirety. How spectacular is this scene! Even though it was washed to an altitude of 10,000 meters by monster currents 400 years ago, it was almost torn to pieces. Even though it has not been popular for 400 years, there is always a solemn air permeating this dilapidated ruins. This is the pride of the ancient city and the Golden Township. Is this the legendary Golden City Sandora? Robin looked at the spectacular scene before his eyes and was extremely shocked. The legendary Golden City of Shantora finally appeared before her eyes at this moment. The discovery of the Golden City has unimaginable significance for archaeological history, especially for the blank century of history 800 years ago, which is of extremely important research value. Thinking of this, Robin was so excited and happy that she even ignored her current situation. Let me tell you, Miss Archaeologist, you have such a big heart. No matter how excited you are, it would be meaningless if you fall down and die. Locke's voice rang in Robin's ears. Hearing this, Robin came back to his senses from the shock of the Golden Land. Feeling the accelerating speed of his fall, even with Robin's usually calm character, he couldn't help but be frightened. He subconsciously hugged the people around him, and a big ball in front of him spread like a pancake. Clinging to Locke. Feeling the beautiful touch coming from his body, Locke smiled helplessly. Hold on tight. Locke warned, leading Robin to start jumping on the falling rocks. At first, Robin didn't know what Locke was thinking. However, when Locke took her right under the fallen fighter jet, Robin couldn't help but start to panic. You are crazy. If you continue like this, we will be smashed to pieces and there will be no bones left. Robin exclaimed. The previous fate of Shenbing Changshan was still vivid in his mind. Not to mention the iron ship, the fall of the huge golden bell tower on top is not something that human flesh and blood can resist. Little girl, if you're scared, just let go. Otherwise, just shut up and watch. Locke said easily. Locke doesn't care what the golden bell tower is like. But Locke was still a little heartbroken if his Quinjet, which was limited to one in the world, broke down. Robin lowered his head and glanced at the distance from the ground. If he jumped like this, he would die or be disabled. Since this person has said this, it means that he is not asking for death. Let's believe him for now. Robin thought so, and his hands holding Locke became tighter, and his two slender legs were wrapped around Locke's waist like an octopus. Hey, little girl, this is not good. It's not good for others to see you in this posture when you are in public. At least you have to find a quiet place. Locke joked. Of course, Robin could hear Locke's dirty jokes. His face turned slightly red and he immediately returned to his usual calm state. What does it matter? Anyway, if you fall, you will be smashed into meat. It will be all mixed together, and others will not be able to see anything. Robin said some terrible words with a calm face, showing his dark attributes. Since you said that, how could I really turn a beautiful little girl into an ugly piece of meat? Hurry up! Locke grinned. The shadow of the fighter jet loomed over him, and Locke raised his hands to press against the base of the fighter jet. Chapter 22 Robin's choice. Beating Enel as the only survivor of O'Hara, the island of scholars, Robin originally thought he was the only person in the world who could interpret historical texts. She will carry the history of 800 years ago alone throughout her life until she dies. However, today, here, she met her first like-minded partner in 20 years. He is also an archaeologist, and more importantly, Locke also knows how to interpret historical texts. This made Robin feel for the first time that he was not alone on this road of history, and that he had companions who could fight alongside him. However, the worries that followed made Robin frown slightly. It had only been an hour since we met Locke. Until now, Robin still has not known the origin of this mysterious and powerful man. If his purpose in interpreting this historical article is not just to know history, but for the so-called ancient weapon that can conquer the world. Looking at Robin's changing expression, Locke could roughly guess what she was thinking, and said, "Don't worry, little girl, I have no interest in either the Poseidon recorded here or the Pluton of Alabasta. The strength of a person lies in by myself, rather than relying on external objects. Let me tell you this, can I dismantle a Gundam with my bare hands?" What? Do you even know about Pluton? Robin was shocked again. What's so strange about this? I know much more than you do now about this historical text and the blank 100 years of history 800 years ago. Locke pretended to be profound. As for historical texts, I've seen almost 80 of them. The Joyboy Confession on the Fishman Island, the Red Road sign on the back of the giant elephant zoo, and all kinds of other messy stuff. Locke gave examples casually. Deo, this is not that he is fooling, but it is true. Except for the current golden clock, which he saw with his own eyes, the others were all seen in the memory of Rox, the former maritime overlord. Decades ago, the ambitious Rox wanted to overthrow the world government and rule the world himself. To this end, his men set up an archaeological corps to study the blank 100 years of history, hoping to find out some truth hidden by the government. It is precisely for this reason that the bottom line of world government was touched, and the government would launch that war at the peak of Rox pirate at all costs. Wait, I suddenly thought of a question. Robin woke up from Locke's deception. What is the problem? How did you find so many historical articles in such a short period of time? In the past 20 years, I have only been lucky enough to encounter 2 by chance. Robin stared at Locke's eyes intently. I told you it depends on this, my spaceship. Locke said with a casual smile. No, you can't lie to me unless you know the location of this historical article in advance. Robin affirmed. In this world, the only one who knows all the historical truth is the Pirate King Roger. In addition, Roger's crew members have seen and heard a lot even if they can't read the historical text. Although you look a little younger than me, you have been calling me little girl since just now. I have reason to suspect that you may be the partner of Roger, the Pirate King. For some special reasons, maybe devil fruit ability without aging. Robin analyzed it steadily. I have to admit that Robin's intelligence is among the best in the entire pirate world. Chapter 23, Incompetent Fury. Enel, please comment on flowers at the top of the golden clock tower. Dark blue lightning flashed, gradually condensing and transforming into Enel's appearance. However, the next second, before Enel, who made a high-profile appearance, could speak, a fist surrounded by dark armament haki came across the air. It was so fast that even Enel, a Thunder Fruit user known for his speed, couldn't react. He could only watch the pitch-black fist approaching, unable to dodge it. In fact, Enel itself had no intention of avoiding it at all. Because he has the Logia Thunder Fruit ability. The moment he gained this ability, he was the god in charge of thunder and punishment, and nothing in the world could hurt him in the slightest. This has been the case for many years, and today is no exception. Enel thought so and waited for Locke's fist to arrive without struggling at all. Then, there was only a loud bang. Blood splattered, white teeth fell off, and his head was buzzing. It wasn't until the strong pain hit that Enel finally reacted. As a god, he was hit by a mortal fist. What on earth is it? Enel wanted to roar and ask questions, but he couldn't speak because of the pain and swelling in his left cheek. Blood flowed uncontrollably from the corner of Enel's mouth. Locke's punch almost knocked Enel's head off his head, and most of his teeth fell out. Since his debut, this is the first time Enel has tasted such pain since he gained the invincible Thunder Fruit ability, which he cannot accept. He is the god of Sky Island, Enel. I know, his power is actually Logia Thunder Fruit. From the previous appearance of Enel, Robin accurately judged his fruit ability in an instant, and then couldn't help being shocked. In her knowledge, Logia fruit users are nearly invincible. In Logia, Thunder Fruit's power to control thunder and lightning is particularly terrifying in terms of attack power, making it the invincible among invincibles. But Robin thought of Locke's previous punch that hit Enel, and couldn't help but doubt his own judgment. If he is really a Logia user, how could he be hit by ordinary physical attacks? Little girl, don't think too much. Just take your time and think about our previous conversation. Leave this electric shock boy to me. Locke said. Oh, Robin nodded blankly. Shock boy. Listening to Locke's contemptuous name for him, Enel was so angry that one Buddha was born and two Buddhas ascended to heaven, and the veins on his forehead popped out. Enel yelled, ignoring the pain, and forcibly used electric current to stimulate cell activity, activate blood circulation and remove blood stasis. Under the stimulation of the power of thunder and lightning, the left side of his face, which was originally swollen like a steamed bun, disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. Damn it, what kind of magic did you use just now? You can't even capture me as a thunderbolt. Enel stared at Locke with eyes that seemed to be burning with anger. You think you can become invincible after eating a better fruit? I can beat 10 of you with one hand for an arrogant brat like you. Locke smiled sarcastically. Asshole, it's just good luck that touched me once. Don't get carried away. I won't give you the slightest chance again. Enel vowed. The next second. Boom. Chapter 24. The shocked Straw Hat crew. Please comment on flowers. A lightning pillar connected from the sky to the earth, carrying destructive and terrifying energy, really piercing the sky above. The solid island cloud was torn apart by the power of Enel's thunder and lightning, and the buildings and ground on the island cloud were all torn apart and completely collapsed. The girl's scream echoed through the sky. It was sharper and much more hoarse than Robin's scream before. What fell under Enel's blow was not only the buildings on Island Cloud, but also the people fighting on it and a twisting giant python. Nami, Zoro, and Chopper. Robin's beautiful eyes widened as she looked at her friends who fell from above. 30 Wheels Flower Network. There was no time to be shocked. Robin subconsciously crossed his arms and activated the Paramecia flower fruit ability. Snow-white lotus arms grew out of thin air on the falling rocks, intertwined like ropes, providing enough buffer for Nami and others' fall. Rumble stones fell all over the sky, kicking up dust all over the sky. Wow, thank you, Robin, I thought I was going to die. The frightened Nami hugged Robin tightly and cried with lingering fear. Unlike Nami's good luck, Zoro, who was holding Chopper, was unfortunately crushed by a stone slab. However, with Zoro's pervert physique, this level of impact was nothing, and he smashed the stone slab that was holding him to pieces with great energy. The other two people, Weibo, the strongest warrior from the Sandia clan, and Ganfo, the former Sky Island god, survived safely because their physiques were not comparable to those of ordinary people. Here is Weber, who was carrying a rocket launcher, jumped onto a stone platform and looked around, looking at the ancient buildings covered in moss. His eyes couldn't help but moisten. He recognized this place. From the first moment he saw it, he knew that this was the hometown that the ancestors of their clan wanted to return to until their death, the Golden City of Sandora. Hiss. With the same excitement is Cassie, Lord of the Sky. After 400 years, it finally returned to the place of its birth. What makes Cassie even more happy and excited is that there is also the Golden Bell Tower that he has been thinking about for 400 years. When the Golden Bell rang again, which was struck by Cassie the Python's tail. The sound of the Golden Bell brought Zoro, Ganfur, and others to their senses after being thrown to pieces, and at the same time, it also reduced Nami's inner fear by half. Only then did everyone notice that in addition to them, there were other people and some strange sights in this ancient ruins. Enel the violent Zandian warrior Weber locked eyes with Enel and fired a terrifying incendiary cannon without saying a word. Electric light, countless thunder and lightning emerged from Anil's body, transforming into endless light and heat, completely cancelling out the energy of Vapor's burning cannon. Rice wife Anil fired a terrifying lightning attack from his right hand, hitting Weber who was unable to avoid it in midair. With just one blow, Sandia's strongest warrior was electrocuted and scorched black, and he fell heavily to the ground, screaming in pain and struggling. Vapor's defeat at the speed of light was certainly shocking, but at this time Zoro and others' attention was attracted by another scene here. Hey, Robin, what's going on here now? A lightning pillar, 2 thunder beasts, and 4 unnatural stone arms. Is there anyone else besides us? Zoro asked in shock. Hey, Robin gave a positive nod. Who is it? Nami asked. Chapter 25 Luffy, Shanks please comment on Flower's 200 million volts, Thor. When Anil released the ultimate voltage of the thunder fruit he developed and transformed into a thunder giant, Zoro, Ganfur, and Weber all widened their eyes in horror. Not to mention Robin and Nami. Under the threat of Thor's destructive power, Nami was already frightened and speechless. Faced with this terrifying force comparable to a natural disaster, who can resist? How to fight against it? After thinking about it, the appearance of the same person appeared in everyone's minds unconsciously. That was the figure of Locke, who had previously been bathed in lightning and walked out of the terrifying lightning strike unscathed. Yahahaha, weak mortals, tremble under the power of God. Are you ready to face the wrath of God now? Among the Thor Titans, Anil smiled confidently and arrogantly. After entering the Thunder God mode, his self-confidence expanded to several points. He was confident that he was invincible and that he was the omnipotent god of thunder and lightning, in charge of all life in the world. Yahahaha, however, Anil's proud laughter didn't last long before it suddenly stopped. At the same time, Locke's figure, which was originally under the gaze of Robin and others, suddenly disappeared, and when he reappeared, he had already jumped above the head of the huge thunder giant. Anil's inner network sent him a severe crisis warning. Anil raised his head suddenly and met Locke's eyes. Seeing the faint joking smile hidden in Locke's eyes, Anil felt a chill in his heart and could not help but feel fear. Damn, you mortal, go to hell. Anil shouted, dispelling the fear in his heart, and controlled Thor's right hand to slap Locke above his head. However, contrary to everyone's expectations, Anil suddenly froze before his hand of thunder could touch Locke. The next moment, a scene more terrifying than Anil's appearance as a thunder god occurred. Slender bright lines emerged from Anil's Thor body out of thin air, crisscrossing it like a go board, dividing it into thousands of parts. Then it was really cut into countless streams of lightning particles, scattered in all directions, and then gradually died away. In the face of Locke's ultimate ability to crush fruits, even natural elements such as violent thunder and lightning cannot escape the end of being crushed. What kind of power is that? That thunder god was shattered. Zoro's eyes widened. God, the power above Anil, that is the real god. Ganfur shouted in horror. Is it the crack of the god of thunder, or is it the atmosphere or space? Is this the man's real ability? Robin's breathing was rapid, as if he was suffocating. She couldn't help but think that if she really got on Locke's spaceship, neither the Marine nor the government would be able to threaten her anymore. Under the shocked and surprised gazes of Robin and others, Locke came to the frightened Anil with a smile on his face, raised his hand to grab his calf, and lifted it up. Pa 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 pa. What followed was a series of snapping sounds as the face came into close contact with the ground. One Piece Chapter 957, Intelligence exploded. Got the explosive information on One Piece Chapter 957 this morning. Not only Kaido and Big Mom, Golden Lion Shiki and Whitebeard were also former crew members on Rock's ship. Candian and Taiba wouldn't dare to make it up like this. Roger and Garp team up to defeat Rocks. Chapter 26 Something happened at Sky Island. Please comment on Flowers. Shanks, we finally meet again. I never dreamed that I would see you on Sky Island. Luffy was hanging on Locke's back like an octopus, and he was still talking incessantly, and the joy he revealed during his reunion was true. Seeing this, both Zoro, Nami, Robin, Ganfu and others showed extremely shocked expressions. This strong man who came from nowhere and can hammer down the powerful Enel is actually an old acquaintance of his Captain/Straw Hat? Is there really such a coincidence in this world? Nami, who is the Shanks that Luffy said? Robin asked breathlessly. That man, according to Luffy, is the leader of his pirate journey. When he was young, he lost an arm to save Luffy. By the way, he is said to be a very powerful pirate. What's wrong? Robin. Nami said. Robin took a deep breath and said, there are 4 emperors who reign at the top of the pirates in this sea, representing the pinnacle of pirates. One of them is the red-haired Shanks. If he is the same person as Luffy said, then not only it's amazing enough to describe it. What? Redhead, Shanks, Emperor of the Sea. Not only Nami, Zoro was also shocked. He never expected that the Shanks who sounded ordinary in Luffy's mouth would turn out to be such a big shot. You really don't know anything. Robin stroked his forehead. Hey, Robin, is that person the red-haired Shanks? Nami asked. No. Robin shook his head decisively, although he has red hair and looks very similar, that person is not the red-haired Shanks, and didn't you also say before that the 4 emperors red-haired one lost one to save Luffy? Arms. That's right. Nami reacted belatedly. The discussion on Robin's side ended, and on the other side, Locke, who was hugged by Luffy, exploded. Bang 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 3 crisp sounds. It hurts? Luffy held his head with both hands and let out a sharp scream. 3 gourd-like lumps appeared on his head. It hurts, Shanks, why did you hit someone all of a sudden, and your fist hurt more than Grandpa's iron fist of love? Luffy rolled on the ground holding his head. What the hell are you, kid? Go away and play. See clearly, I'm not the redhead you know. Locke waved his hand angrily. Garp is Locke's first enemy when he came to this world. The father's debt is paid by the son. Long was away, so it would be a good idea to beat his grandson to vent his anger, which would be considered as collecting the interest owed for 40 years. Oh, Luffy's eyes widened in shock and he took a closer look. You're really not Shanks. Your right hand is still there and your eyes are not scarred, but why do you feel so similar to me? Luffy said in confusion while holding his head. Chapter 27 Power Bank Enel Locke's Golden Ark. A secret cave in Sky Island. Locke carried Enel with one hand and went deep into the cave. Soon, the long and narrow dark corridor came to the end, and what appeared in Locke's sight was a huge gold ship. Ark Proverbs. Enel spent 6 years evacuating all the gold from the golden town of Sandora, and then gathered the people of Sky Island for 6 years to build an electric spaceship. The gear conversion device made of pure gold can minimize the loss of electrical energy. Ark Proverbs is the most luxurious car that Enel prepared for himself to travel to the Infinite Land. It's just a pity that Enel met the same fate as Doflamingo. After 6 years of hard work, it was just a wedding dress for others. This golden spaceship belongs to Locke from now on. After leaving the angry and livid Enel casually by the roadside, Locke jumped onto the boat, spent some time walking around, and finally nodded with satisfaction. Except for the big face, which is a bit annoying, everything else is pretty good. Thank you for your hard work. Locke said with a smile. Snort. Enel snorted coldly and turned his head, as if he didn't want to see Locke's disgusting smiling face again. Whenever he thinks about the fruits of his 6 years of hard work, but someone picked the peaches halfway, Enel feels heartbroken and wants to vomit blood. If he had known this, if he had known it would be this result, why would he be playing with the Straw Hat crew? If he had just sat on the ark and left, it would have been over. Money can't buy it, I already knew it. Electric Shock Boy, do you know why I still keep your life? Locke looked at Enel with a smile. I didn't know before, but now I know. You kept me because you wanted to use my Thunder Fruit ability to charge the Ark's proverbs. Enel said. It's not too stupid, half right. Locke nodded. This is indeed one of the reasons for keeping Enel's life and Thunder Fruit abilities alive. Although Locke can now also control the power of thunder and lightning, it is still a bit unseemly to ask him to use a power bank to charge the golden spaceship for a long time. You still have to leave the job of power bank to others. Enel, who is familiar with all the circuits inside the golden spaceship, is the best candidate. Another reason for retaining Enel was that Locke cherished his talent. 40 years ago, the Thunder Fruit user was the leader of the Rock's Pirate Thunder Corps. Enel is now regarded by Locke as his successor. In addition, Locke also wanted to see how Enel, a Thunder Fruit user, would fight with the other strong men in Qinghai to see who was stronger and who was weaker. Cough cough cough. In the completely silent cave, Enel coughed a few times. Yeah ha 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 ha, what if I say I don't agree? Enel said. That's it, then there's nothing we can do about it. Locke grinned and tapped Enel's shoulder with his right hand. Chapter 28 The tragic life of Golden Lion Islands. Floating in the sky, scattered at different heights, form this magnificent floating sky island group. There are mountains, water, and rivers on it, as well as beautiful red maple forests, ancient house ruins, and all kinds of strange and special beasts and creatures, staged scenes of exciting fighting scenes. The natural law of the weak and the strong is fully explained here. The world of pirates is full of strange things. There is Sky Island 10,000 meters above the sea, and there is also the magnificent The Fishmen Island under the sea. However, a group of floating sky islands like this can no longer be simply described as the miraculous craftsmanship of nature. It completely ignores gravity and is not affected by gravity. It is completely unreasonable to let Newton know that he would be able to overturn the coffin board in anger. However, in this pirate world, no reason is the biggest reason. Some phenomena cannot be normalized, just like the floating sky island group that appears in front of Locke and the others. It is not a natural creation, but someone's devil fruit ability that created the wonders here. Lion Fruit Ability User, former captain of the Flying Pirates, Flying Pirate Golden Lion Shiki. Only Golden Lion Shiki's lion fruit ability can create such a magnificent floating island. Unknowingly, I came here. Ha! Locke's mouth curved, and he was very excited. The sea 40 years ago was the era of Rox, the overlord of the sea. As the only king above the sea, Rox wants to unify the sea. This ambition drives him to continuously expand his kingdom of Rox, coercing and luring powerful players from all over the world to join, including the two current four emperors Big Mom Charlotte Linlin and Kaido of the Beasts. At that time, there were four super newcomers in the sea, Gold Roger, Whitebeard Edward Newgate, Lone Ranger Red Earl and Golden Lion Shiki. For these outstanding and powerful newcomers, Rox will naturally not let them grow freely, and will do everything possible to win them over. Gold Roger wants to be the freest man in the sea. He has the aura of the protagonist and escapes several times. Finally, he teamed up with the marine hero Garp and caused tons of damage to the then Overlord Rox in the final battle. The aloof Red Baloric Clydefield can't afford to fight, but he can hide. The new world is so big, and as a Lone Ranger, it's really hard to find him when he hides. Golden Lion Shiki, in fact, after 3 months of negotiations, the Rox have successfully recruited Golden Lion. Just before the flying army headed by Golden Lion Shiki was officially established, the Rox pirate suffered a comprehensive crusade from Marine and the government, and died. As for Whitebeard. Chapter 29 Enel's Journey to Hell. Wow! You can clearly see the ripples on the bottom of the lake. A group of mutant piranhas with sharp teeth are like locusts. Even large sea beasts cannot escape the fate of turning into withered bones wherever they pass. The mantis stalks the cicada, followed by the oriole. After the mutated piranhas had eaten and drank enough, a strange big fish that had also been mutated jumped out like a swimming dragon and wiped out half of the group of piranhas in one bite as a snack. The strange big fish, still not satisfied with itself, aimed at the two unsuspecting people on the shore, its small red eyes full of cruelty. However, after hesitating again and again, the strange big fish gave up the goal of reaching its mouth out of instinct. His intuition told him that the two targets on the shore were not easy to mess with. You know what's going on, but even low-level creatures dare to peek at God, us. Enel snorted coldly and put down his right hand that was flashing with lightning. If it had been before, Enel would have penetrated the entire lake with a divine sanction without saying a word. It's just that nowadays people have to bow their heads under the eaves. With Locke in front of him, Enel had to consider the consequences no matter what he did, for fear of making Locke unhappy and thus unlucky. The more you do, the more you will make mistakes, the less you do, the less you will make mistakes, and the more you do, the more mistakes you will make. This is Enel's life motto today. Rumble at this moment, the ground on the floating sky island suddenly shook violently. In the three directions of southeast, northeast and due east, dense virgin forests fell in pieces, splashing dust all over the sky. Not long after, a huge upgraded land octopus appeared in the sight of Locke and Enel in the southeast direction. Then a blue tiger appeared. Swish, swish, swish. There was a rapid and sharp sound of breaking wind in the air. A huge upgraded flying mantis with a body length of more than 3 meters vibrated the wings on its back and came rapidly from the distant sky. When the huge forelimbs were swung as sharp as a sickle, the towering trees were easily cut off like paper, which clearly shows its sharpness. Roar! The earth-shattering sound waves of the bear's roar spread, blowing up the fallen leaves all over the sky. The behemoth from the east finally appeared and rushed to this ancient ruins battlefield. It was a black and white, one-eyed, long-toothed bear. The terrestrial octopus, the blue tiger, the flying mantis and the one-eyed and long-armed violent bear, 4 mutant beasts exuding violent auras, met here. Unsurprisingly, they started a fierce battle to determine the king of this forest. That boy Shiki is not very capable, and he does a lot of crooked ways, but it is too naive to rely on these things to conquer the world. Locke sat on the ruins of the Sphinx and whispered to himself. But before Shiki comes back, it would be nice to have some sideshows. Locke thought to himself. Chapter 30 Water City Incident. Robin was arrested on the magnificent sakura tree. A red-haired young man in a silver windbreaker lay leisurely on the thick trunk with his eyes closed and took a nap. The petals of pink sakura flowers carry a sweet fragrance and fall with the wind, just like a beautiful rain of sakura flowers. They are as quiet as a fairyland in a painting, and the beauty is unreal. Whoa, 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 whoa! Suddenly, a shrill, hoarse scream broke the silence. You stupid cows, all come together. Today I'm going to perform a show of 3 mouths and 1 cow. Enel yelled angrily, holding his disheveled head on his head. After a week of hell-like training, Enel was completely knocked out of the world. The arrogant middle-class mentality of being a god that originally existed in him has basically disappeared, and his overall image, including his fighting style, has become increasingly wild. This is also natural. Now that Logia Thunder Fruit is sealed, if he wants to survive in the mouths of the vicious beasts, he must do his best, no matter how much he cares about his image. About a quarter of an hour later, the fierce battle under the sakura tree ended. The small Red Bull fighting group that was originally entrenched here dispersed, leaving only a dozen Red Bull fighting corpses the size of wash basins. Enel casually bandaged the bloody hole stabbed by the bullhorn, and then started cleaning the battlefield and preparing for today's lunch. There is no way, who makes him a vulnerable group now? Not only do you have to face countless life and death fights every day, but you also have to serve an uncle. This life is really difficult. But no matter how difficult it is, he still has to continue to live. After all, he has not lived enough. And after this week of hell training, Enel has indeed felt a huge improvement in his own strength, and has become more and more proficient in the use of the heart network. This kind of torture is not completely without benefits. Smoke curls from the kitchen, and the aroma of roast beef gradually spreads. On the sakura tree, Locke opened his eyes, took out the seasoning hanging on the tree, and sprinkled it on Enel's grilled steak. In an instant, the increasingly rich aroma overflowed. After a feast, Locke yawned and returned to the tree to rest out of boredom. Enel, after cleaning up the mess, went deep into the forest and started preparing the ingredients for dinner. Shiki, you really made me wait. It's been a week and you haven't come back yet. I have prepared a surprise for you. Locke swung his legs and whispered to himself. I thought that Golden Lion Shiki would come back within a few days. However, it has been a week and Shiki still hasn't returned. This makes Locke wonder whether Golden Lion Shiki will bring back the Straw Hat Pirates when he returns. If we really have to wait until that time, it will be too long. Counting the time, the Straw Hat crew should be arriving at the water capital soon. Oh, you will finally get on my ship this time, Robin. Locke thought to himself. Chapter 31, Spondum Who Seeks Death. Please comment on Flowers and Ice Lobby. Ace Lobby was established by the world government and is one of the three major institutions alongside Impel Down and Naval Headquarters Marineford. Because there is no night on this island, only day, it is also called the island that never sleeps. An ice lobby is surrounded by an iron fence on the outside. The entire island can be divided into 4 parts, namely the front island, the main island, the Tower of Justice and the Bridge of Hesitation, in addition to the Gate of Justice located behind the island. At this moment, Robin and Frankie crossed the waterfall through the suspension bridge and arrived at the Justice Tower in the 3rd part. After 5 years, the 8 members of the World Government's Secret Intelligence Organization CP9 gathered again. It is precisely because this ice lobby has been guarded by generations of powerful CP9 killers that it has never been breached and has achieved the myth of being undefeated. Ah ha 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 ha, Lu Chi, Keiku, Bluno and Khalifa, I haven't seen you for 5 years. Thank you for bringing me such a good gift. The purple-haired man wearing a mask, Spondum, who was known for his cunning, selfish and confident character, came forward with a smile and hugged the 4 returning heroes one by one. You are sexually harassing me. Khalifa, who was wearing a suit skirt and her legs wrapped in black stockings, pushed up her glasses and stepped on Spondum's face with her black high heels. Spondum took 2 steps back in pain and rubbed the bridge of his red nose, but he was not as furious as usual. Nico Robin, and Cotty Flam, the disciple of that smelly fishman Tom, I miss you so much. In order to wait for your arrival, I didn't sleep all day and all night. A proud smile appeared on Spondum's face, looking at Robin and Frankie who were restrained by sea stone handcuffs with utmost mockery. Sponda, seeing the insidious man who killed his mentor, Frankie, who had been relatively calm along the way, finally showed anger for the first time. However, his anger was completely useless at this time. Boom, taking advantage of his strength, Spondum took advantage of Frankie being locked up and kicked him hard several times before turning around and returning to his position, ready to catch up with his subordinates and reconnect with each other. Just then, Spondum noticed a special phone bug that Khalifa had placed on the table earlier. Khalifa, where did this phone bug come from? There is a button on the back. It looks similar to the golden phone bug Aokiji Admiral gave me. Spondum asked curiously, taking out a golden phone from his arms as he spoke. Insect. When he saw the golden phone bug in Spondum's hand, the expression on Robin's face suddenly changed. 20 years ago, the tragic scene that happened in her hometown of O'Hara came to mind involuntarily, making Robin's body shiver with chills and her delicate body trembling uncontrollably. That was the deepest shadow buried in Robin's heart. Spondum noticed the change in Robin's expression, rolled his eyes, and roughly understood the reason for Robin's fear. Because 20 years ago, the person responsible for pressing the golden phone bug and initiating the buster call was his father Spangdon. Chapter 32 Enel is free and the Golden Lion returns. Wait for me. Although there were only 3 words, Robin's heart that gradually sank into darkness rose again and became bright again because of these 3 short words. You are really here. Thank you. You responded when I needed you most. I am already satisfied. Robin murmured softly, tears moistening her eyes. Wait for me? What does this mean? Is it my imagination? Hey, Jabra, did you hear it before? Spondum asked in confusion. Who knows, I laughed too loudly before and didn't pay much attention. Jabra said. Baba, it seems like someone is talking, but it seems like there is no one. Otonashi Fukura, who had a zipper sewn on his mouth, said. Khalifa frowned slightly and turned her head to look at the pigeon man Rob Lucci, as if asking for instructions on what to do. After all, she had found the phone bug from Robin and brought it here. Rob Lucci was unmoved by Khalifa's gaze and continued to sit with his legs crossed, coldly. Seeing this, Khalifa said nothing more. Forget it, the top priority now is still you two. Spondam looked at Robin and Frankie. Oh, by the way, when the prison ship comes, take your friends, the Straw Hat crew, and imprison them in the Impel Down, so that you can be reunited again. I'm such a good person, ha 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 ha. Spondam laughed. At the same time, Sky Island is floating about a kilometer above the sea. On the beautiful sakura tree, Locke stood up suddenly, his eyes bright, and divine light radiating out. On the phone in the palm of my hand, the disgusting laughter continued to ring. Locke couldn't think of anyone but Spondam laughing so disgustingly. The phone bug he gave to Robin fell into Spondam's hands, and Locke knew what happened to Robin without even thinking about it. Time was running out, and Locke immediately activated the Quinjet fighter, speeding away at Mach 6 supersonic speed along the direction of the radio waves connected between the two phone bugs. There was a thunderous sound of air explosions in the sky, which was the roar of the Quinjet's engine. Floating Sky Island Forest. Enel looked up suddenly, just in time to see the spacecraft that seemed to him very strange take off and go away. After being briefly stunned by the high speed of the spacecraft, Enel suddenly reacted, with an excited look on his face. Yeah ha 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 ha, that devil is gone, I'm free, I'm finally free. Enel laughed with excitement and joy. Without Locke to discipline him, Enel suddenly jumped like a tiger out of the gate, prancing through the mountains and forests. 3 hours later, Enel returned to the lake where he had parked the Ark of Proverbs. Then, he spent another 3 hours using a huge octopus tentacle to catch the weird fish in the lake. A stick knocked down. The head of the strange and ferocious fish was smashed to pieces by Enel. Immediately afterwards, Enel cut open the belly of the weird big fish and began to rummage around regardless of the disgusting mixed mucus. Finally, Enel found the stuck key near the intestinal opening of the strange fish. Chapter 33, Haki is in full bloom. Please comment on flowers on the floating Sky Island. The thunder god Enel and the flying pirate Golden Lion Shiki are fighting fiercely. On the coast of New World Dressrosa, Brogover Coterie Itsuka vs Beasts Pirates Jack the Drow. Grand Line Island that never sleeps, Ace Hall of Ace, an alliance formed by Pirates Straw Hat Crew, Frankie's family and Carrera Company's shipwrights launched a challenge to Marine and World Government. The Imperial Manatees of Frankie's family, Sodom and Gomorrah, were unstoppable all the way, leading the people of the alliance to break through to the main island of Any Ace Hall before finally falling. Luffy, the Straw Hat who rushed into an ice lobby before everyone else, now climbed onto the roof of the trial building. There is a waterfall in front of you, and opposite the waterfall is the Tower of Justice where your partner is. At this moment, a squeak sound suddenly came from the roof of the empty trial house. It's like a door has been opened. That's the truth. About 10 meters away from Straw Hat Luffy, an air door suddenly appeared out of thin air in the originally empty air. The air door was pushed open, and a burly man in a suit with a horn hairstyle stepped out of the air door. With his iconic dead face and downturned mouth corners, as if everyone owes him 5 million, this person is Bluno, the bar owner in the original Water City. Now, his identity is Bluno, a member of the world government's secret cipher POLCP9, a gate fruit user. It seems you haven't noticed yet. This is a world-class crime. Bluno spoke like a robot. What do you want to say? Luffy asked. The world government has gathered the forces of more than 170 participating countries around the world, and you invaded the island that belongs to this huge organization. This means that you are enemies of all countries. You only have a few dozen people, and your strength is very small. If you want to break into one of the 3 major institutions of the world government, you are really overestimating your capabilities. There is only one result waiting for you, and that is... Bluno hadn't said the last word die yet. Suddenly, there was a violent sonic boom in the sky. A brilliant tail flame seemed to ignite the sky, coming from the sky, from far to near, at an extremely fast speed, and flew over an ice lobby in the blink of an eye. This sudden change attracted the attention of everyone including the 10,000 sailors in an ice lobby and the Straw Hat Alliance. People looked up and looked at the strange spacecraft floating in the sky, looking shocked. That strange spaceship belongs to someone who looks very similar to Shanks. Luffy yelled. It's that person, he's here too. Nami exclaimed in surprise. Oh ho ho ho, kids, don't be confused anymore, our strongest reinforcements have arrived. After a brief moment of shock, the masked Sniper King waved his hand, changing his previous cowardly behavior and becoming confident and arrogant. Under everyone's attention, the rear hatch of the strange spacecraft in the sky opened, and a red-haired young man wearing a silver windbreaker appeared in everyone's sight. Chapter 34, killing CP9 instantly with unmeasurable power. Come here, he is coming towards us. Lu Qi, help me, you guys too, hurry up and get in front of me, this is the commander's order. In the office on the top floor of the Justice Tower, Spondam's expression was twisted with fear. He was so frightened that he couldn't move. Even his crotch was wet. The domineering momentum that brought down 10,000 sailors at the same time was just the beginning. A warrior like Spondam, who is worse than an ordinary sailor, is still standing awake today because of Locke's special care. For a scumbag like Spondam, Locke didn't want him to die silently in a coma. That would be too cheap for him. Don't come over. Under Locke's strong murderous intent, Spondam felt great fear in his heart, and was on the verge of mental collapse. He kept shouting and making ugly appearances. Regarding Spondam's ugly appearance, the other 6 CP9 members except Bluno in the office room were indifferent. In other words, they don't have the extra time to pay attention to their idiot commander at this moment. On the balcony about 10 meters away from them, a red-haired young man in a silver trench coat appeared and walked in calmly. Seeing Locke approaching, Spondam shouted even louder. Don't come here. I have the buster call authority given by Aokiji Admiral. If you come here again, let everyone die together. Spondam shivered and took out the golden phone bug from his arms. The blue-purple sword light was as fast as thunder and disappeared in a flash. The CP9 supermen present didn't even have time to see it clearly. Spondam's arm holding the golden phone bug on the ground had already flown up, and the blood was rising high. A scream as loud as a slaughtered pig sounded from Spondam's mouth. Noisy Locke glanced at Spondam indifferently, then dropped his foot, and Spondam's right leg turned into a puddle of meat. The double pain of a broken hand and a broken foot hit him, causing Spondam to faint from the pain in an instant, and then the noisy sound disappeared. There was silence in the huge office, only Locke's footsteps echoed regularly. The 6 CP9 supermen, including Rob Lucci, were all ready, their eyes fixed on Locke to prevent his every move. It was clear that Locke was just walking like an ordinary person, but everyone in CP9 felt as if there was a mountain that could not be reached at a glance approaching them, which was despairing. I'm here. Finally, Locke said. He lifted up Robin who was lying on the ground, gently stroked Robin's black hair with his right hand, and placed his left hand on the sea-stone handcuffs behind Robin. There was a soft click sound, and the sea-stone handcuffs, which were as hard as diamonds, shattered into 4 pieces under Locke's fruit-crushing ability, and fell to the ground with a sound. Didn't I tell you that if anything happens, please contact me immediately? Why did it happen like this? Locke said. I'm sorry. Robin lowered his head and apologized softly. For a time, the joy of regaining freedom, the touch of seeing Locke arriving as promised, and various other complex emotions surged into my heart at the same time, and my eyes were red. Chapter 35 The Judiciary Tower collapses. Please comment on flowers. Fakura, Natsudori. Seeing that his partner on the mission was easily defeated by Locke's kick, Jabra couldn't help but scream, and he was glad that he was not impulsive. Damn, what kind of power is this? How much power does it have? What a monster! Jabra screamed to express his inner shock. Keiku and Khalifa both gasped in unison. That kick was enough for them to feel the gulf-like strength gap between them and Locke. This was what Fakura and Midori used their bodies to test for them. Even Rob Lucci, who is known as the strongest killer in CP9 for 800 years and has 4,000 levels of power, is not enough in front of Locke. The difference in strength between the two cannot be calculated logically. Locke's power is completely different from theirs in the same dimension. Even just standing there so quietly, Locke gave them the feeling that he was the center of the world, with a powerful and dazzling light. Not angry but self-confident, with no trace of aura showing from anywhere on his body, it sends the most dangerous signal from the bottom of his heart. This is the sign of a truly strong person. Who are you? Lu Qi shouted, staring at Locke, ready for a fight. At this point, no matter how powerful Locke is in front of them, they have no way out. As the killers of world government Cypherpole, all they have to do is try their best to kill or be killed. Faced with Lucci's aggressive questioning, Locke smiled slightly. Instead of satisfying Rob Lucci's curiosity, he just gave a standard deceptive answer, guess. Guessing is naturally impossible. Keiku, Jabra. Lu Qi shouted. Keiku and Jabra understood what Lu Qi meant and knew that they could no longer retreat and escape at this time. The 3 of them surrounded Locke. Swish, swish, swish. Following the actions of Lu Qi and the others, countless blurry after-images suddenly appeared in the spacious room. Tempest Kick Guy Bird, Tempest Kick White Thunder, Tempest Kick Lone Wolf. The 3 of Lu Qi, who were moving at high speed in a shaved state, all stopped at one moment and launched an offensive against Locke. The big blue bird from Lu Qi and 2 interlaced cross-shaped marks from Keiku fell from the sky. On the ground, the blue wolf-shaped air blade kept bouncing, which was the unique Tempest Kick skill that Jabra had practiced. Don't embarrass yourself with such little tricks. If you have the ability, use it as soon as possible, otherwise you will have no chance. Locke said casually, waving his right hand lightly. In an instant, whether it was Lucci's big blue bird or Jabra's special bouncing tempest kick, everything solidified, then shattered and dissipated silently. In the room, Lucci and the three people who landed on the ground looked at each other. The next second, they all transformed. Kakaka, the ground beneath the feet of Lucci and the others dented under the heavy pressure. The Devil Fruit ability is activated, and the images of the three people have undergone tremendous changes. After everything was completed, the images of Lucky and the three people on the field changed drastically, transforming from humans into half-orc forms. Jabra the werewolf, Keiku the giraffe, and Lucci the leopard. Tempest Kick Kirin Shijer Chapter 36, Killing Spondum and Summoning Buster Call Rumble. Under the impact of Locke's supreme power, the already crumbling judicial tower collapsed without any accident, turning into a broken ruin and sending up smoke and dust all over the sky. What exactly happened? Bluno, a Menman fruit user who was entangled by Luffy on the roof of the trial house, widened his eyes in horror and shouted in shock. Rubberjet Pistol. When Bluno was distracted by the collapse of the Justice Tower, he was inspired by the piston structure of the Sea Train Rocket Man and developed Luffy's new move Explosion in second gear. Under Luffy's new move, Bluno's iron body defense was broken in a hurry. His back was arched like a shrimp, his eyes gradually turned white, and he finally passed out. After finally defeating Bluno, the boiling blood in Luffy's body gradually subsided, and he looked at the ruined Justice Tower opposite like a monkey. But it's such an exaggerated fight. It's almost the same as when Grandpa used to practice boxing with mountains. Are Robin and the man in underwear okay? Luffy said to himself. The sea breeze blew away the dust in the sky. In the center of the ruins of the Justice Tower, Locke protected Robin and stood there, spotless. Cough cough cough. There was a coughing sound under the stone slab not far from the two of them. The strange Iron Man Frankie used water splash to break away the stone slab that was pressing on him, and he was very embarrassed. Ahem, brother and sister, can you use your rich little hands to unchain me? Frankie said with a cry. Just as Frankie finished his words, a slab of stone flew out from the ruins in the other direction and hit his face under Frankie's resentful gaze, burying him again. Not far away, Rob Lucci in the form of a leopard man emerged from the ground, his aura still strong. The first time he saw Locke, Rob Lucci knew that with his current strength, there was absolutely no chance of victory. Even so, he has only one way to fight, without any retreat. Lucci's leopard-like body, his muscles were constantly bulging, and explosive power was condensed in his fists. Kakaka. The huge rocks in the ruins were shattered by Lucci's leaked momentum, and cracks opened like spider webs. This is all I have. I want to see how far the gap between me and you is. Lucci said calmly. At this moment, he threw away all other emotions, and all that remained was the passion for fighting. You are a good prospect, but unfortunately you are still too young. Locke commented calmly. 6 styles maximum round 6 King Gun. Rob Lucci, the strongest person in CP9 for 800 years, roared with all his strength. The air was boiling at this moment, rippling violently, delivering an extremely terrifying impact. Locke took a step forward, like a sharp knife, causing an unhealable gap in Lucci's nearly perfect offensive. Boy, if you want to compete with me, you can practice for another 40 years. Locke stood proudly, showing confidence and arrogance. Faced with Rob Lucci's biggest 6 King Gun, Locke also punched. It is not as powerful as Lucci, but it exudes an aura of justice and peace. Wherever he passes, everything in the world seems to be a boost to Locke. This punch seemed to be the world. Boom. Chapter 37. Robin bids farewell to the Straw Hats and says goodbye with a smile. Click the button on the golden phone. Bug's back was pressed by Locke. On the surface, an ice lobby remains calm and unchanged. However, the naval headquarters at this moment was in a state of intense preparation because of Locke's behavior. Way-oh way-oh way-oh. When Locke pressed the golden phone bug, the matching silver phone bug far away in naval headquarters emitted a unique alarm sound, representing the execution of the Buster Call. Naval Headquarters Marineford, Marshal's office. Sengoku stood by the window with a sad face, looking at the naval headquarters that was busy for Buster Call, the wrinkles between his eyebrows getting deeper and deeper. Damn it, what happened over there at Aokiji? They actually launched a Buster Call on an ice lobby. Could there be any changes in the arrest of the Devil's Son over there? Didn't you say that everyone has been caught? Sengoku said to himself. Even though it is known that an ice lobby is the face of world government, once the Buster Call is launched, it cannot be cancelled. Even Sengoku, as the marshal, does not have this authority and can only wait quietly for the final result. I hope there won't be any unexpected changes. Sengoku muttered to himself quietly, feeling uneasy in his heart. In the Naval Headquarters harbor, the 5 Naval Headquarters Vice Admirals led 10 top warships and 10,000 elite Navy soldiers to assemble and move along the sea towards an ice lobby. At the same time, the Justice Tower of Ace Hall is in ruins. After venting all his anger and pain to Spondum, the haze that enveloped Robin's heart dissipated a lot. However, when Robin saw the golden phone bug in Locke's hand, Robin's pretty face suddenly turned pale again. She really hated the Spandams, but the real shadow in Robin's heart was the Buster Call behind this golden phone bug. No, be careful, don't touch that button. Robin said anxiously. If you are talking about this, I have already pressed it before. Locke replied with a smile. Robin's face suddenly turned pale. You pressed it? You really pressed it? How could you? This is Buster Call. It's not good. The whole island will be razed to the ground by cannon fodder. The O'Hara incident 20 years ago will happen again. Robin's delicate body couldn't stop trembling because of fear, and her eyes gradually lost focus. Calm down, Robin. A strong hand fell on Robin's shoulder, waking her up from her nightmare. It's just a Buster Call, nothing special. Locke smiled gently at Robin. This gentle smile seemed to have some kind of contagion, which gradually calmed Robin's restless heart. But if she wants to completely eliminate the shadow that Buster Call had on Robin 20 years ago, she still needs to see some scenes with her own eyes. Hey Robin, can you hear me? We're here to pick you up. Luffy shouted at the top of his lungs on the other side of the court, on the roof of the trial building. Robin, it's great that you're okay. Nami called. Miss Robin, Sanji, Chopper, Zoro, and Sniper King Usopp all came to the roof of the trial house and greeted Robin happily. Without Marine's hindrance, Frankie's family arrived at the trial court smoothly. Sister Robin, where is brother Frankie? Have you seen our eldest brother? Little ones. A loud roar came from under the ruins. Frankie pushed open the stone slab again and wriggled to the edge like a caterpillar. When he saw his dear brothers on the opposite side, Frankie was suddenly moved to tears. Chapter 38 Shattering the Sea. Please comment on flowers. Let's say goodbye with a smile. It's easy to say, but it's not easy to do it. Robin laughed and cried. Even if there are millions of reluctances in my heart, I still have to make a decision. It doesn't matter what the reason is. Luffy showed a rare serious expression. Luffy, Robin called softly. I said, we don't care about any of the reasons you mentioned. No matter who your enemy is, we will never abandon you, so come back quickly, Robin. Luffy shouted. Yes, Luffy is right, Robin, please come back. Chopper cried, first Usopp, and now you. If one by one leaves, I will be lonely. Miss Robin, please stay. Sanji begged on one knee. Everyone. Robin looked slightly shaken. The next moment, Robin shook his head violently to dispel the confusion and wavering. Anyway, if you want to leave, the long-term pain is worse than the short-term pain. Don't you understand how terrifying my enemies are? You can't deal with just a CP9, let alone Marine Admiral Aokiji last time. Luffy, you are too weak now. You can't protect me. Even if I can ignore you, I still have to consider my own way of survival. I still want to live, fulfill everyone's last wish in O'Hara, and open up the blank 100 years. History, so the fate between us ends here. Robin spoke decisively. After saying that, he suddenly turned around and walked straight to Locke, who had remained silent. On the roof of the trial building, everyone in the Straw Hat crew was completely silent. After a while, Sanji and Chopper opened their mouths and wanted to say something, but Luffy raised his hand to stop them. Needless to say, this is Robin's choice. This is the only reason I can't refute. Luffy said seriously, and then took a deep breath. Robin, as the captain, I approve your departure. You are right. We are still too weak now, but we will definitely be stronger in the future, strong enough to protect you. I will come back to pick you up when the time comes. That uncle who is very similar to Shanks, Robin will be temporarily entrusted to your protection while we become stronger. After Luffy finished speaking, he turned around first and strode away without looking back. There was no trace of loss or anger on his face, only the desire to become stronger. 10 minutes later, the area near the Justice Tower was completely silent. They have left. Locke said. That's good. I'll leave it to you next. Robin nodded. Locke nodded silently, holding Robin's slender waist with one hand, carrying the unconscious Khalifa on the other shoulder, and jumped onto the suspended fighter cabin in midair. A quarter of an hour later, the first artillery fire sounded, representing the arrival of the Buster Call troops from naval headquarters. Behind the Tower of Justice, the huge portal, the Gate of Justice, has been completely opened. Due to the connection of ocean currents, the two original natural shelters of Ice Lobby, Uzumaki, were filled in and ceased to exist. About a few hundred meters away on the sea, 10 top-notch warships from naval headquarters arrived in a mighty manner. Chapter 39, Marine Earthquake, the fire demon's fame in the sea. The sea shattered in Locke's hands. The top warship from naval headquarters collapsed in an instant. The sea surface shattered like a mirror at this moment, and a 100-meter-high wave rushed into the sky. This scene is like the end of the world. In just a moment, the terrifying Buster Call configuration from naval headquarters Marineford was completely defeated. During the entire process, Marine's side couldn't even see the face of the person who made the move. What a horror! Look, I've told you before, it's just a small buster call, no big deal, it can be overturned. Locke, who returned to the Quinjet, said easily. He didn't care at all about the shocking move of shattering the sea and defeating the marine fleet with one palm, just like crushing an ant to death. Robin pursed his lips and nodded. She had just separated from the Straw Hat crew, and she was still immersed in the melancholy of separation. Even after seeing the shocking scene before, there was not much movement. But when I think about it afterwards, I will still be shocked. Then let's go. Locke was not interested in admiring Marine's miserable appearance, so he left in the Quinjet and caught up with Straw Hat and others who had left first on the sea about 100 miles away from the Water City. With the help of another lost member of the Straw Hat Pirates, the dilapidated Going Merry, the Straw Hat crew successfully left an ice lobby. Just persisting so far, Going Merry finally ushered in his end, bidding farewell to his favorite friends in the blazing fire. When people die, boats are no exception. In many cases, they are even more fragile than people. Watching Going Merry die in the fire, Robin, like Luffy and others below, couldn't stop crying. It wasn't until Straw Hat and others left on the ship of Water City Chief Ace Baku that Locke flew the Quinjet to the opposite direction of the floating islands. At the same time, Naval Headquarters Marineford, a big earthquake occurred as the bad news came back from an ice lobby. What did you say? Tell me again. Naval Headquarters Building, Marshal's office. Listening to the battle report from an ice lobby, Sengoku stood up in shock and anger. His whole body was shaking slightly with anger and shock. Yes, Naval Headquarters Commodore Branyu, who had short green curly hair, stood at attention, saluted, and swallowed nervously and hurriedly. According to the news from an ice lobby, the 10 top warships that set off from our headquarters were sunk and destroyed by unknown persons just 10 minutes ago. Our army suffered heavy casualties. Branyu bravely reported again. Chapter 40 The Shocked Golden Lion Shiki. Please comment on flowers. The trip to an ice lobby was a happy ending for Locke. Not only did he successfully get Robin on board, but he also brought back a prisoner. Khalifa, the only female member of CP9, is a user with Paramecia Bubble Fruit ability. With Khalifa on board, you no longer need to prepare shower gel and the like on the ship. You can use Khalifa instead. Just say hello to Khalifa when taking a shower. Of course, it is unknown what other developments will occur during this process. We will only know after they happen. In the cabin of the Quinjet, 2 graceful beauties, Khalifa and Robin, were lying side by side. The former is due to Locke's Conqueror's Haki impact, and he is still in an unconscious coma. As for Robin, it was because she was too tired. She had barely rested in the past few days since she was found by CP9. In addition, all kinds of mental fatigue, separation from friends, and seeing Going Merry leave. After experiencing so many things in just a few days, Robin couldn't bear it even if he was an Iron Man. Once he relaxed at this time, he fell asleep in an instant. The Quinjet was adjusted to a fixed-speed directional navigation state by Locke, and returned in the direction of the floating islands at a speed of Mach 4, without the need for manual operation. Locke, who was freed from the control of the fighter jet, turned his seat, rubbed his chin with his right hand, and looked at the 2 beauties sleeping beside him. The same black uniform, the difference is that Khalifa is wearing a one-piece set of black silk fishnet stockings, and Robin's slender legs are wrapped in a pair of black silk stockings. 1 + 1 is greater than 2. When these 2 beauties with similar temperaments are placed together, their pleasingness will naturally double. Whether it is capturing Khalifa or pulling Robin on board, Locke's own desires are at work. After holding it in for 40 years, just Violet certainly couldn't satisfy Locke. The regret of 40 years ago, the life that he was unable to enjoy 40 years ago, this time Locke will indulge and enjoy it twice as much. That being said, now Locke would not do anything while Robin and Khalifa were asleep and unconscious. Anyway, they are already on his ship, and there is a long way to go. Of course, it will be more interesting to wait for the other party to wake up. Moreover, the distance between an ice lobby and Golden Lion Shiki's floating sky island is not too far. In another hour at most, we should be back on the island. The an ice lobby incident was an unexpected situation for Locke. After learning about the situation, Locke set off immediately. He was in such a hurry when he left that he couldn't care about anything else, so naturally he couldn't care about Enel in the forest. Nearly a day passed after going back and forth, and Locke wanted to go back as soon as possible to see if Enel had done anything bad during his absence. An hour flies by. Through the windows of the Quinjet, one could vaguely see a large number of floating islands under the night sky in the distance. Chapter 41 Lessons. Golden Lion Shiki vomits blood. Boy Shiki, I haven't seen you for decades. Not only have you not made any progress, but you are getting better and better. The Vermilion Palace door was blown open, and the wind and snow surrounded Locke like elves, following his steps until they were melted by the warmth in the palace. Looking at the red-haired young man walking slowly from the palace gate, Golden Lion Shiki, who was sitting in the highest seat of the palace, suddenly stood up. His face could not hide the shock and disbelief. Even his strong spirit was due to excessive stress at this moment. Shocked and shaken. That hair color, that appearance, and that haki's sideways posture all overlap with a certain existence in Golden Lion Shiki's memory that he needs to look up to. But, how is this possible? It makes absolutely no sense. The existence that he once looked up to should be dead. He had been dead for 40 years and even his bones had turned into ashes. How could he appear in front of him again? Golden Lion Shiki had mixed emotions. He stared at the red-haired young man walking slowly and opened his mouth, but no words came out. From beginning to end, Locke's eyes only fell on Shiki. Locke turned a blind eye to the pirates he recruited. They are just a group of idiots making trouble in the paradise, bullying the weak and afraid of the strong. How can they get into Locke's eyes? Is this your plan to disappear and prepare for 20 years? Find a group of weak fools as your subordinates, add some bugs, and plan to conquer the world. You'd better save yourself and don't go out and make people laugh. Locke was still walking calmly, with a sarcastic smile on his face, and the words he spoke were also extremely sarcastic, making Golden Lion Shiki's 20-year plan worthless. But Golden Lion Shiki couldn't even say a word at this moment. Golden Lion did not speak, and the other pirate captains who were still waiting for Shiki to speak finally couldn't help but burst out. In Locke's Vice Admiral, the value of their existence has been reduced to nothing, even worse than an insect. For the cruel pirates, this was simply a shame and humiliation. How could they endure it? Red-haired bastard, where did you come from as a savage? You're so arrogant. You're just a kid. What a big tone. You don't know how to write the word death and want us to teach you. Boy, do you know that the adult in front of you is the legendary great pirate, Flying Pirate Admiral Golden Lion Shiki. Boss Shiki, I used to be a legendary pirate as famous as Roger and Whitebeard, the pirate kings. I will not tolerate your slander. How dare you? I'm going to cut him into a stick. It seems he needs training from our pirate group. Unforgivable. Kill him. Chapter 42. Shattering the Sky. The lion surrenders. Please comment on flowers. The wind was mixed with snow, and the cold air it brought was enough to cool down people's hot blood. In the huge luxurious palace, the originally lively scene no longer existed, falling into a strange silence. Looking around, there were thousands of pirates scattered on the ground. In the entire banquet palace, the only one who remained awake was Golden Lion Shiki. But at this moment, the condition of this legendary flying pirate is obviously not very good. The damage accumulated during the daytime battle with Enel exploded at this moment and could no longer be suppressed. Coupled with Locke's heart-wrenching words before, he ruthlessly tore off all the pretense of strength from Golden Lion, shattered his 20-year fantasy, and had an unprecedented impact on Golden Lion's mind. It's been too long. He had been away from the sea for too long. Talking about the fantasy of world conquest with the weak pirates in the paradise made him almost forget the threshold of the new world. Only now, with the arrival of Locke, did he finally recall those unforgettable past events and wake up from his unrealistic fantasies. I know that I can no longer keep up with the development of the times, but what can I do? Golden Lion said dejectedly, his whole figure suddenly seemed to have aged more than 10 years. In the Atvo naval battle with Roger, I was lucky enough to save my life, and then I lost my legs in the deep-sea prison. My strength is declining day by day. Today, I even tried my best to deal with an arrogant Logia brat, and I almost lost. I can't go back to the past. Golden Lion Shiki spoke dejectedly, admitting for the first time in front of others that he was old and could not survive. But, having said this, Golden Lion Shiki suddenly changed the topic, changing his previous decadent appearance, and exuded a domineering aura that could make a lion roar around the sea and swallow up the world. Wearing that person's skin, he knows everything about me and the previous Rocks pirate, but how can a person who has been dead for 40 years be resurrected? Bastard boy, who are you? And where did you know these past events? Golden Lion exudes a lion-like aura, calm and self-confident. At this moment, he finally has a trace of the legendary temperament he once had. Very good. Faced with Golden Lion Shiki's question, Locke, instead of getting angry, praised him. Shiki, at least you haven't lost your lion heart. As for whether I am genuine, you can give it a try. Locke stood calmly and proudly, and every cell in his body seemed to be full of confidence and strength. An invisible momentum surged in the banquet hall, causing cracks to appear out of thin air on the solid tables and chairs. Gee ha 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 ha, Lion Thousand Slice Valley. Golden Lion Shiki suddenly laughed, and the two famous swords Sakura Mokiju under his feet stirred up thousands of golden sword energy, cutting open the earth and shredding the palace. When everything calmed down, the originally luxurious banquet palace turned into ruins. Everything changed drastically. The only thing that remained unchanged was Locke. Under the fierce attack of the great swordsman of the previous era, Locke did not even move a step. Gee ha 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 ha, that's not enough. Golden Lion laughed several times and suddenly shouted loudly. Lion Majesty govern place earth coiling. The Lion Fruit ability is activated, and the Golden Lion Shiki gains control over the blizzard. Chapter 43 The God of Thunder in the Water Prison. Please comment on flowers after the snowstorm. It's sunny. The outside world is covered in silver, and the earth is white, glowing under the sun. In a spacious Japanese-style room, Robin, wearing a light silk pajamas, her eyelashes trembling slightly, woke up from a deep sleep. Where is this? Robin opened his eyes, looked at the unfamiliar environment around him, and whispered subconsciously. Are you awake? Get up and eat something first, and I'll take you to see some good things later. Locke's voice came from the recliner not far away. By the way, now that I'm no longer on the Straw Hat Pirates ship, this should be that person's home. Robin thought to himself, sitting up from the tatami. Looking down, Robin was stunned for a moment when he saw the nightgown on his body, and a blush appeared on his pretty face. My clothes. What's wrong? Is there any problem? Locke turned his chair and asked. No, it's not. Robin shook his head slightly, but ultimately did not ask the awkward question of whether Locke had changed her clothes for her. Looking around the room, Robin found that her original set of clothes had been washed and placed on the cabinet next to her. Looking at Locke, who was humming a tune rhythmically on the couch beside him, Robin knew that Locke would not avoid it. Seeing Robin's sudden movement, even Locke couldn't help but be surprised. Originally, he wanted to wait for Robin to speak before he went out to avoid it. He never thought that Robin would be so fierce and straightforward in showing all of himself to Locke. Could this be a deliberate attempt to induce him to commit a crime? Just as Locke was thinking about all this, Robin finished putting on his clothes very quickly. Okay, I've changed my clothes, let's go. Robin calmed down his nervousness and spoke in as calm a tone as possible. When Robin was changing clothes earlier, he was actually extremely nervous, like a deer stumbling around. What would she do if Locke exposed his true nature and pounced? Is it rejection or acceptance, or is it half-assuming? Having been struggling in the darkness of the world for more than 20 years, Robin is naturally not a novice who doesn't understand anything. He understands the things between men and women very clearly. In the past, whether in West Blue or Grand Line, she relied on her excellent mind and considerable strength to ensure her innocence from those who had evil intentions. However, when facing Locke, Robin knew that if Locke wanted to do something to her, she would never be able to resist. In the face of absolute strength, any strategy is in vain and has no effect at all. To Robin's expectation, Locke remained motionless until the end. Robin breathed a sigh of relief, but also felt a little disappointed. Now that we've changed, let's go eat something first and then look at those things. Locke stood up, pushed out the door first, and walked toward the base restaurant with Robin. Until the footsteps of Locke and Robin faded away, and there was another room separated by a cupboard door. Khalifa, who was also wearing a light nightgown on the tatami, opened her beautiful eyes and let out a long breath. Chapter 44 Silver Axe, Akoku, John, please comment on flowers. Hey, Shock Boy, you're not dead yet. Locke greeted Enel with a smile. This is the underground dungeon of Golden Lion Island Base, which is specially used to detain ability users. The airtight prison is like a glass container, with just enough room for one person. The sea water that can make a person with abilities weak is exactly at the level of Enel's shoulders. If Enel wants to sit down or squat down due to his physical weakness, his entire body will be immersed in the sea water. At the same time, in order to prevent Enel from breaking out, Shiki also added a set of sea stone shackles to Enel to completely block his abilities. In such a situation, Enel tried his best to stay alive, let alone escape. This is the perfect cage specifically for those with abilities. This person is Enel from Sky Island. Looking at Enel, who was trapped in the sea and looked miserable, Robin couldn't help but look shocked. I recall how arrogant and domineering the god Enel was when he was on Sky Island. How arrogant! Playing wantonly with other people's lives. However, today he ended up like this. It was his turn to be treated as a piece of meat on the chopping board. Sure enough, there is a cycle of cause and effect. Retribution is unsatisfactory, evil people still need to be evil. No, Robin quickly stopped the thought that naturally popped up in his mind. In the narrow prison, Enel, who had his eyes closed and gritted his teeth to support himself, opened his eyes. When he saw the man he regarded as a devil, Locke, right in front of him, a panicked look suddenly appeared on Enel's face. But soon, the panic expression turned into joy. No matter how scary Locke is, as long as he can be released from this damn place, everything else won't be a problem. Hurry, let me out quickly, master. Enel begged weakly. Haha, Locke smiled slightly. I didn't expect that I had already thrown the key into the lake and it was eaten, and you were able to find it. This is worthy of praise. But Locke immediately changed the subject, looked at Enel jokingly and said, did I allow you to open the sea stone handcuffs? Maybe you want to sneak away while I am away. Hearing this, Enel's face became even more panicked. Tisk, 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 Locke shook his head gently, this kind of behavior is not good. It seems that you have not become a slave yet, so you can continue to be detained for a few days. Locke made a decision, which made Enel feel like he was struck by lightning. This feeling of powerlessness and pain would last for several days, making him want to go crazy. However, it was already too late for Enel to regret in his heart. Locke did not listen to his excuse at all and took Robin deeper underground. About 10 minutes later, Golden Lion Shiki took Locke and Robin to the end of the underground passage. Open the huge stone door in front of you, and behind it is a space about the size of 2 basketball courts. Dim kerosene lamps lit up. The first thing that catches the eye is 7 square pieces of historical text. This is 7 pieces of real historical text. Robin's pretty face was full of joy and shock. There are more historical articles here than she has seen in the past 20 years combined. Chapter 45 Calipha's Escape. Please comment on flowers. Captain Rocks, you are starting from nothing when it comes to relationships now. You are the first one to come to me with nothing. Golden Lion Shiki couldn't help complaining after holding it in for a long time. Who said I don't have anything now? Isn't there just one in your water prison now? Locke retorted. I caught that for you. If I hadn't hit him in time, that kid would have escaped on the golden ship. Golden Lion Shiki said. Ahem. Locke ate too fast and choked on the food. Wiping his mouth, Locke seemed to remember something and said, well, when I was in New World not long ago, I took over a country by the way. Which one? Hearing this, Golden Lion Shiki suddenly became interested. Dressrosa. Locke said. Dressrosa. Golden Lion Shiki looked confused and took out yesterday's newspaper from the shelf next to him. This report says that the new queen of Dressrosa is this little girl known as Inma. Captain, please don't fool me, I can easily believe it. Shiki pointed to Itsuka Kodari in the newspaper. Locke nodded with satisfaction as he watched the news in the newspaper about the fire demon Ifrit defeating Jack the Drow. This little girl is also mine. Locke said. What? Golden Lion was shocked. This is one of the few pieces of good news. Those old guys were running away to death, and the ones who are still alive don't know where they are squatting. If we want to rebuild the Kingdom of Rocks, we need more. Only with strong combat power, this little girl is good, she can defeat Kaido's capable men in her teens, her future is limitless. Shiki said, highly appreciating the strength of Itsuka Kodari. Speaking of which, Captain Rocks, what I'm most curious about right now is, how did you come back to life? Back then, we all saw you being hit by the world government's ultimate weapon, and finally being punched by that bastard Garp. Pierced the heart. Golden Lion Shiki summoned up the courage to ask. Locke did not answer immediately and focused on killing a wild boar in front of him. After a while, Locke put down the tableware, wiped his hands, and looked at Shiki, who was still waiting, with a smile. Haha, when you understand the true meaning of Devil Fruit's ability and what a devil is, you will also know. Locke said seriously. Sure enough, listening to Locke's unintelligible deception, Golden Lion Shiki took a breath and secretly sighed at how terrifying it was. He just felt that the universe inside was extremely profound and beyond his ability to understand. Unknowingly, Locke's image in his mind grew taller and taller. Just when Shiki was immersed in the shock of the demon, the sound of fart-like footsteps came. It was Dr. Indigo, Shiki's only remaining old subordinate, a clown chemistry expert. Boss Shiki. Dr. Indigo whispered in Shiki's ear, turned and left after finishing the report. What's wrong? Locke asked. Captain Rocks, the other woman you brought back ran away. Golden Lion Shiki said. Oh, Locke responded casually. Do you need me to ask someone to capture her? Shiki asked. No need, the fun of cat and mouse is really more interesting if you have to do it yourself. Locke grinned. Chapter 46, An Ice Lobby reports 4 Emperors meeting. Please comment on flowers. I found it. There is indeed a hot spring here. Looking at the steaming hot spring pool in front of him, Calipha suddenly looked overjoyed. She reached into the hot spring with her delicate hands and tested the temperature. It was just right, the temperature that the human body can withstand. Zixisuoshuo. After a tiring day, Calipha didn't care. She just took off her tattered clothes, walked into the hot spring pool, and found a good place to relax and lie down. Ah, it's so comfortable. Sure enough, the best time to soak in a hot spring is when you're tired. Calipha said to herself leisurely. The heat from the hot spring invaded every pore on her body, sweeping away the accumulated fatigue in her body. The only thing that makes Calipha feel a little uncomfortable is that she is now a person with abilities. People with abilities always feel a little powerless when soaking in water, even if it is not sea water. But Paramecia bubble fruit can also come in handy at times like this. Calipha said to himself. The devil fruit ability was activated, and a large fragrant soap bubble appeared out of thin air around her, washing away the stench of beasts on her body, leaving her feeling refreshed. Hey, the little girl across the way, I wonder if you could lend me some bubbles. Seeing how comfortable you are, I kind of want to take a hot spring bubble bath. At this moment, a clear voice sounded from the other side of the hot spring pool without warning. Hearing the man's voice coming from not far away from the opposite side, Khalifa was suddenly startled, and his muscles all tensed up, getting ready for battle. Who is it? When did you come? Is there anyone here already? Khalifa shouted. Hey, little girl, everything must be done on a first come, first served basis. I discovered this hot spring pool first. I have been here all the time, and you are the latecomer. Locke on the opposite side said. What did you say? You've been here all along, why didn't I see you before? Khalifa's eyebrows were raised, and he stepped back step by step, covering his vitals. It seems that the steam here is too thick, so it would be better to spread it out. Locke said. After saying this, a gust of wind suddenly blew by, blowing away all the natural steam barrier between the two of them. Little girl, I asked you that you haven't given me the soap bubbles you borrowed. Where do you want to go? Locke smiled and looked at Khalifa who was preparing to go ashore not far away. It's you. As the water vapor dissipated, Khalifa finally saw clearly the face of the person opposite. Even though his face turned pale with fright, he almost lost his mind. You, why are you here? Emotions of nervousness, fear came to my mind. Khalifa never expected that she would have fled to such a corner, and by chance, she would meet this devilish man. This is my back garden, why can't I be here? Why are you here? Are you on the way to escape? Locke asked with a smile. Khalifa kept silent and squatted down in the hot spring. The first time she saw Locke, she knew that her escape plan was in vain. It's better to obey Locke's wishes here and not anger him again, Khalifa thought to herself. Snapped. Locke raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Little girl, where are the soap bubbles I want? Isn't it ready yet? Locke urged. Chapter 47 Four Emperors Collide. Red Hair and Whitebeard. The second half of the Grand Line, New World. The sea is treacherous and contains countless natural and man-made disasters. This is a sea where only the truly strong can stand. On this sea, there are four emperors who are above the pinnacle of pirates and standing at the apex, known as the Four Emperors. The Four Emperors level super pirate group usually do not meet each other. In addition to the conflicts and hatred caused by the perennial turf war, there is also the strenuous efforts of Marine and the government to stop them. Today, the Marine fleet responsible for blocking the red-haired Four Emperors was all sunk in just a few minutes. There was nothing that could stop the meeting of the two emperors above the sea. Dad, the red hair said he wants to see you, Dad. A pirate came over anxiously to report. Ask him to come over. That boy should have brought some good wine. On the spacious deck of the huge whale ship Moby Dick, the old Whitebeard Edward Newgate sat on the steps, his body covered with various hanging bottles and medical examination instruments. The once all-powerful king of the sea, the strongest man in the world who led an era, is now really old, but the hacky in him is still there. The red hair is coming. Diamond Jose, captain of the 3rd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, said. Young men, please step aside, your bodies will not be able to bear it. The man with a head shaped like a pineapple, Phoenix Marco, the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, waved his hand. Without waiting for the pirates on the boat to ask for the specific reason, they only heard the sound of footsteps. As a result, some of the people closest to the connecting stairs rolled their eyes and fell to the ground completely unconscious without even making a sound. Despair. Four Emperors. Red-haired Shank's footsteps sounded again, and another group of people fell to the ground. By the time the red-haired Shanks finally appeared on the deck, the whale ship Moby Dick was already full of people. I have half-assed mental capacity, but I can't stay awake in front of that man. Jose said, you're still as hacky as ever, redhead. Finally, Four Emperors. Red-haired Shanks stood in the middle of the deck. I'm sorry, I got a showdown as soon as I boarded the enemy ship. However, I have no intention of fighting. I just want to discuss something with you. Red-haired Shanks said. Is this what a exposed man should say, hacky? You are such a bastard, cool la la la. Whitebeard laughed. But this hacky of yours reminds me of a certain person. You really look like that person. Whitebeard said pointedly. Chapter 48, Tired Khalifa and Robin. Please comment on flowers 1 week after the Nice Lobby incident. Grand Line, Floating Islands. The Palace Greenhouse swimming pool built by Golden Lion Shiki. As expected of Captain Rocks, I haven't seen you for 40 years, and you are much stronger than before. If you continue like this, Captain, you might even be able to overcome Devil Fruit's only weakness. A man in a wide golden kimono Shiki clapped his hands and exclaimed. When the palace was first built, Shiki built this swimming pool, but over the years, he never swam in it. After all, he is also a demon fruit power, cursed by the sea to forever be a landlubber. However, today, he witnessed the birth of a miracle. Locke, who is also a demon fruit power, can swim back and forth in the swimming pool without changing his expression, as if he is not affected by the curse at all. Seeing this miraculous scene, Golden Lion Shiki couldn't help but think of the meaningful words Locke said a week ago. The true meaning of Devil Fruit's abilities. The essence of the devil. After understanding these 2 points, you can come back to life and return to your youthful state even after being dead for 40 years. In comparison, you can overcome the curse of sea water, which is no big deal. Thinking of this, Golden Lion nodded secretly and looked at Locke with even more reverence. Locke didn't know about the messy thoughts in Golden Lion Shiki's heart. He went straight to the shore, took a bath towel, wiped it casually, and lay down on a beach chair nearby to sunbathe. His resurrection is the result of the system and has nothing to do with the devil or anything. As for the curse on demon fruit power, which still exists, it has not been overcome as Golden Lion imagined. It's just that Locke is very, very strong now, with endless physical strength, and the water in a small swimming pool is not enough to take away his strength. Captain, the red hair had contact with the old man Whitebeard a few days ago. The news has only come out now. The marine guys are too timid. Shiki handed Locke a freshly minted newspaper. Red-haired and Whitebeard have already met. It seems that the battle on Bonaro Island will last only these 2 days and is finally about to begin. Locke said. Bonaro Island? Where is that place? What's going to start? Shiki asked in confusion. Big event. Locke said casually, without revealing too much future information to Golden Lion. A big event is about to begin. Golden Lion Shiki murmured, confused. He found that he could no longer keep up with Locke's rhythm. Shiki, that electric shock boy is still alive, Locke said. Hey, I've been paying attention to it. Although he is very weak, that kid's vitality is really strong. Golden Lion said. Let him out, and prepare some food and drink. I'll set off tomorrow, Locke said. Although the life on Golden Lion's floating sky island is very leisurely, and he enjoys the company of Robin and Khalifa, Locke will not be satisfied just yet. There are more exciting and beautiful things waiting for him in the sea below. In the Bonaro Island incident, Fire Fist Ace, the captain of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, clashed with the Blackbeard Pirates. Ace was arrested and used as an exchange for Blackbeard's Shishibukai, which triggered a battle on the top that would later affect the whole world. There will be the stage where Locke officially announces his return to the world. Chapter 49, Brooks' Shock and Moria's Arrival. The Devil's Triangle is a real sea of demons, shrouded in thick fog all year round. Once an ordinary ship is lost in it, it will never be possible to escape from this sea area. It will be completely trapped by the maze currents here and become one of the thousands of ghost ships here. Regarding this special sea area, Locke found some records from the memory of his former overlord Rox. About 40 or 50 years ago, Rox once sent one of his regiment commanders to this sea area to look for something, but found nothing. Not only was nothing found, but even the people who got into the ship, including the Legion commander whom Rox valued, were not spared and disappeared. Later, out of fear of the sea area, or because he found other interesting things to do, Rox did not explore it and gradually forgot about this sea area. In Locke's memory, there is indeed something huge and unknown in this Devil's Triangle Sea. From the perspective of God in his previous life, Locke clearly remembered that when the Straw Hat crew defeated Moria and left the sea, a pair of scarlet pupils appeared in the thick fog. That should be the biggest secret hidden in this sea area. This time, in addition to going to the thriller bark to visit the weakest Shishibukai Moria, Locke also wanted to try to find out the true identity of that huge thing and satisfy his curiosity. Locke is confident that with his current strength, he can be fearless no matter what is in this sea area. Under Locke's instructions, Enel controlled the Golden Ark and plunged into this mysterious sea. However, reality cannot always fulfill people's wishes. Even though Locke used various methods, he still got nothing. The thing in this sea area may be sleeping, or it may feel Locke's fear, but it never moves. The exploration work lasted for 2 days, and Locke had no choice but to bring it to an end. It was impossible to spend time here endlessly. Next it was time to visit Gecko Moria. Compared to the unknowns hidden in this sea area, Moria's thriller bark is much easier to find. Even if Locke doesn't take the initiative to look for it, the other party will rush to his door. Yo-ho-ho-ho! At this moment, a burst of laughter that was familiar to Locke suddenly came from the sea below, causing Khalifa and Robin on the deck to change their expressions. The next moment, the laughter disappeared, and instead came the melodious sound of a violin. The song played was Binks's Wine, a famous pirate song on the sea. Skeleton, a skeleton playing the violin. Enel, who was leaning on the edge of the mast and looking down, suddenly shouted. Even a strong man like Enel was deeply touched after seeing the living and moving skeleton, and he couldn't help but wonder if there really is a devil in this world. Enel's shout also attracted the attention of Brooke, who was dead on the ghost ship with only a handful of bones left. When he saw the huge golden spaceship flying by in the sky, Brooke's skeletal face showed a look of extreme shock, even though he had no face. Electric Shock Boy, go down and take a look. Locke said. Yes. Enel paused, then nodded obediently. The Golden Ark gradually descended and stopped at a level with the deck of the ghost ship. Chapter 50 Shocked Gecko Moria woo 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 woo. In the gloomy sea shrouded in thick fog, a light suddenly lit up, and at the same time it seemed to be accompanied by bursts of whispers, like the whispers of ghosts, or like the roar of evil spirits. A huge island ship made from a small island is drifting with the current in the thick fog, with no starting point and no end. This huge island ship is called the Thriller Bark and belongs to the 7 warlords of the sea Gecko Moria. It is claimed to be the largest known pirate ship in the world. 10 years ago, Moria and 3 of his men drove the Thriller Bark into the Devil's Triangle and used it as a base camp to hunt passing merchant ships and pirate ships, and secretly formed a zombie army to accumulate strength. After Moria's 10 years of hard work, there are now more than 800 zombie soldiers on the island. At this moment, there is a gloomy old castle in the center of the huge island ship. 7 warlords of the sea Gecko Moria stood on a high place, squinting his eyes and looking into the distance, with excitement on his demon-like face. Come on, the last feedback sent back by my shadow bat is in this direction. The flying precious gold ship will soon belong to me. This will be my most generous harvest in the past 10 years, wee. Gecko Moria laughed wildly, looking forward to getting Locke's golden ark. However, Gecko Moria never imagined what kind of person he was going to provoke this time. This decision he made out of greed will bring him disaster. Oh, it has appeared, you can already see it, you idiot, you actually approached my horror roar, don't you understand that curiosity kills the cat? But that's fine, if you really fly away from the sky, I really have nothing to do, he. When he saw the golden spaceship coming towards him in midair, Moria was overjoyed. Absalom, Dr. Hogbark, get all the zombie soldiers and zombie generals ready. No matter who is on the ship, take them down as soon as possible. In addition, Perona, you are also ready. In case of any accident, you are still ready. Your power is needed. Moria gave orders to the 3 major cotters through the phone bug. Yes, Lord Moria. In the gloomy palace, a girl wearing gothic Lolita clothes responded. I'll get up, my zombie army. Absalom, a strange man with the jaws of a lion, the skin of an elephant, and the wild power of a bear and an orangutan, roared in the ruined church. The next moment, dozens of coffins placed in the church made noises. The coffin lid was opened, and zombies wearing different armors crawled out of the coffin one after another, making a menacing roar. Is this the Thriller Bark of 7 warlords of the sea Gecko Moria? Califa leaned against the railing, her beautiful eyes wide open, looking at the hands emerging from the ground in the cemetery below, and then all the living zombies. Thinking that this was the Devil's Triangle, Califa reacted immediately and thought of the description of Moria she had seen in the 7 warlords of the sea records. 7 warlords of the sea Gecko Moria, West Blue's famous corpse stealer. It turns out that he wants to resurrect human corpses. It's really a terrifying ability. Robin, who is also from West Blue, also has some concerns about the rumors of Moria. Here. Hi, it's okay if it's not a real demon. As long as it's a human being, there's nothing to be afraid of. Anil sighed, sweating, and the serious expression on his face faded. The golden ark calmly passed half of the ship's hull and went straight to the castle in the center of the island ship. From the heights of the castle, Moria was overjoyed as she watched the golden ship approaching.